Chapter 2143. Tianyun had finally improved his star aspect to level 4. He had to admit that he had almost failed to do so. He would have had to search for the 10,000 Emperor Flower, which would have been a rather dangerous situation. Now that he had reached level 4 of the star aspect, it meant that he only needed enough star energy to break through to the major star venerable level. What he was most worried about was breaking through the limit. As long as he did not break through the limit, star energy would be easy to earn, especially since there were so many giant beasts here. Why would he worry about not having enough star energy? Moreover, he had already obtained a lot of star energy. He only needed to kill a few more giant beasts to successfully break through to the major star venerable level. After going through so much, he could finally break through to the major star venerable level. It was quite exciting. To him, it had been a little too long. To other cultivators, it was really too fast. Who knew how many years it would take to break through to the sky-traveling origin level? Who knew how hard it had been? "Sir, you've come out of seclusion?" They looked Tianyun up and down. It was obvious that Tianyun had a different aura, but they were not sure what it was. At least, they could not feel any changes in his cultivation. He had only improved his star aspects level, not his own cultivation, so it was not that obvious. "Yes, I've come out of seclusion. What's the situation now?" Tianyun walked up to them. "Forgive me for my incompetence, but we were unable to stop the giant beast's attacks at all." They looked ashamed and could not even raise their heads. They had thought that they could use the temple to deal with the giant beasts. Who knew that the effects would be so weak? "Don't be nervous. Let me take a look." Tianyun's expression was calm. He went to the control panel and grasped the long moon azure dragon saber. He immediately sensed the situation of the entire temple. After a while, he nodded slightly and said, "Yes, the situation is quite bad. That major star venerable beast has attacked and destroyed many areas of the temple. The formation is not very effective against it, not only because its defenses are too strong, but also because the temple is not at its peak. If it was at its peak, it would have been cut into pieces." "That's right. If the temple was at its peak, would they still be so arrogant? We've already killed them all." The faces of the Heavenly Tiger Patriarch and the others were filled with anger. Seeing these huge beasts wreaking havoc in the divine hall built by their ancestors, they felt suffocated, but there was nothing they could do. If they were given time to repair the temple, would they still be able to do as they pleased? But for now, there was no time for them to repair, and their level was not high enough. He could only provide more energy to the temple. There were many spirit-gathering formations in the temple that had not been repaired for a long time, causing the situation to be slightly worse. If it was repaired, the number of times the temple could attack would increase by a lot. For example, the light blades from before no longer required a period of time to charge up before they could be used again. Instead, he had to use it several times in a row before it reached the charging stage. "Don't worry, let me go meet them." Tianyun pulled out the long moon azure dragon saber and dripped a drop of blood onto the control panel. The blood flowed into the opening. Following that, a dazzling light shone from the control panel, signifying that he had become the master of the Azure Tiger Divine Palace. If he hadn't done that and pulled out the long moon azure dragon saber, he wouldn't have been able to use the Divine Palace. As long as he became the master, he would be able to use the great formation in the Divine Palace at any time, which would undoubtedly be very convenient. Most importantly, he would be able to investigate the situation at will and know the situation of all the areas in the Divine Palace so that he could come up with a plan. "Sir, are you going to deal with them personally?" They were startled. Wasn't that tantamount to courting death? If they were giant beasts at the star venerable level, they wouldn't have said anything. Tianyun had killed a large group of star venerable beasts easily. But the giant armored bear was down there, and it was a grand star venerable. Whoever went down there would die. There was no way to stop it. "That's right. Is someone going down there to deal with them for me?" Tianyun said with a faint smile. "No, there's a giant armored bear there. Even such a powerful great formation can't deal with it. If you go down there, even if you have the long moon azure dragon saber, you won't be able to break this thick defense." The Jia clan's master and the others tried to persuade him again. That's right. We can use the Great Formation to wear them down and force them to retreat. Even if it's a giant armored bear, I don't believe it can persist forever. The Heavenly Tiger Tribe's master also tried to persuade him. They didn't want to send Tianyun to his death. They couldn't deal with it now, but it didn't mean they couldn't deal with it in the future. In our current state, even if we force them to retreat, we won't need more than half of the Divine Palace. It was a good Divine Palace, and after it's repaired, it can become the tribe's perfect stronghold and defend against all kinds of attacks. But if we don't deal with it, most of the Divine Palace will be destroyed, and it will be even more difficult to repair it, Tianyun said. That's true, but we don't have a choice now. Sir, even if you aren't weak, the giant armored bear is too strong. The Heavenly Tiger Tribe's master and the others didn't give up on persuading him. Talented people were the most important. They couldn't do anything even if the Divine Palace was destroyed, and they couldn't stop it. Just wait and see. I'll send you out when the time comes. When you attack, I won't ask you to help me kill them, but to help me stop them, Tianyun said. What do you mean? They were all dumbfounded. They didn't know what Tianyun meant. What we're going to deal with now isn't the giant armored bear, but the giant beasts outside. In other words, giant beasts of the Star Lord and Star Venerable level. Help me stop them so that I can kill them all. A murderous intent flashed in the depths of Tianyun's eyes. So that's how it is. The Heavenly Tiger Tribe's master slapped his thigh and said in pleasant surprise, "This is called a disguised rescue. If we kill all the giant beasts outside, I don't believe that the giant armored bear won't come out. It can't just watch as its subordinates are killed, can it?" Tianyun was dumbfounded. He had to admit that the Heavenly Tiger Tribe's master had a good idea, but he hadn't thought of it that way. He just wanted to harvest a wave of star energy. He was still short of star energy, and he would be able to increase his cultivation level. Something like that. Tianyun didn't explain too much. Since that was what he was thinking, he would just go with the Heavenly Tiger Tribe's master's plan. That's good. This plan is feasible. We can carry it out now. The Ghana tribe's master nodded and said, "We've been staying here for too long. Now we can go out and exterminate them." Chapter 2144. After coming up with a plan, Tianyun and the rest immediately took action. They all thought that they were going to kill the giant beasts to lure the giant armored bear out. Only Tianyun knew the real situation. Soon after, they quickly went out of the temple's doors. Under Tianyun's control, a small gap was easily opened, and they all rushed out. There were groups of giant beasts outside, and there were many star venerates among them. They had purposely blocked the entrance to prevent Tianyun and the rest from escaping. Now that they had come out, they all roared angrily and charged over. They had never experienced Tianyun's terror, so naturally, they were not afraid of them. "Help me trap them. Let me kill them," Tianyun said in a deep voice. "Of course, if you want to kill the giant beasts, try to kill the ones with lower cultivation. As for the ones above the star venerate level, leave them to me." They did not know what Tianyun meant, but they could only do as he said. Given the amount of star energy they needed now, only the ones above the star venerate level would provide them with more star energy. As for the other levels, the amount of star energy required was too little. Of course, no matter how little meat there was, it was still meat. However, it was a little too unkind to ask them to block the beasts and not let them fight. The Jia family patriarch and the rest quickly spread out and surrounded the area, sealing off all the paths. The ones with lower cultivation waved their hands, and a large number of them died. As for the ones above the star venerate level, they all swatted them back with a slap. Tianyun had already said that he would deal with the star venerates and above. Naturally, he had to swat them back and not let them escape or kill them. At this moment, countless saber lights swept over and completely cut them into countless pieces. With one slash, several star venerates and a large number of star venerates were chopped in half. Tianyun once again displayed his berserk blade technique, crazily slashing his way forward. All the giant beasts in the surroundings were slaughtered until not a single one was left. It was truly terrifying. Amidst this frenzied slaughter, his star energy continued to rise, and Yi Tianyun felt extremely satisfied. Having a large number of astral beasts made a difference. Every time he slashed, he would gain a considerable amount of star energy. Soon, many of the giant beasts in the area were cleared out. Some of the giant beasts that wanted to come over to help were frightened when they saw the situation. They didn't dare to come closer. Just a little more. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he quickly flew around, slashing at the beasts he saw. There were only a few star venerable beasts among them. Most of the star venerable beasts had entered the palace with the giant armored bear to demolish the house. Therefore, if he wanted to kill those star venerable beasts, he had to get close to the giant armor bear. This meant that he had no choice but to kill some of the weaker beasts in order to accumulate more star energy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have enough star energy. Roar! At that moment, an angry roar came from underground. Then, a giant figure flew up from below and appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Their pupils shrank. It was the giant armored bear. As expected, they had lured the giant armored bear out. After killing the giant beasts on a large scale outside, the giant armored bear would definitely come out. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to still be crashing into the wall below after all of them had been killed. The giant armored bear was indeed lured here. Let's go back quickly. They planned to quickly hide inside the palace. If they stayed outside, they would probably be chased by the giant armored bear. That wasn't a wise choice. They quickly hid inside the palace, and only Yi Tianyun remained outside. You guys hide inside first. Leave the outside to me. Yi Tianyun waved his hand and sealed the door. The Ghana tribe's leader and the others didn't even have time to react before they were locked inside the palace. They didn't know what had happened. Yes, sir. They were all dumbfounded. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. They all thought that Yi Tianyun would go back with them. Who knew that Yi Tianyun would directly lock them inside and face the giant armored bear alone? A group of people might not even be able to deal with the giant armored bear, let alone Yi Tianyun alone. But they wanted to come out, but they couldn't. The door was already tightly shut. They weren't the master of the palace. They were firmly trapped inside and couldn't come out at all. What's going on? Sir isn't coming in? This sir is planning to face the giant armored bear alone? That should be the case. But can sir deal with the giant armored bear? They were all stunned and hurriedly probed the situation outside. The outside couldn't probe in, but the inside could probe the outside. The two were different. After they probed out, they immediately had a panoramic view of the situation outside. At this time, the giant armored bear had already rushed in front of Yi Tianyun and spoke in human language. You killed so many of my clansmen. The giant armored bear's huge body was fast and ruthless. In an instant, it arrived in front of Yi Tianyun. It swung its huge palm down, wanting to flatten Yi Tianyun. This palm could shock the world and make ghosts and gods weep. It was the first time Yi Tianyun had seen it. With pure brute force, it could easily break through the void and shatter everything. Even if it was the law of words, it would probably be smashed to pieces by a single palm. Yi Tianyun was already prepared and quickly dodged to the side. However, his speed wasn't as fast as the giant armored bear's palm. When the Ghana tribe's leader and the others saw this, their hearts rose to their throats. It's over, I'm going to be hit. Being hit by such a shocking palm was naturally not a small matter. Yi Tianyun couldn't dodge and could only endure the fierce attack of this palm. As the sound of air being compressed rang out, Tianyun wasn't smashed into a bloody mist. Instead, he was sent flying by the palm. Yi Tianyun, who was sent flying, had thick dragon scales on his body. The six-colored king dragon's power was attached to his body and formed a thick defense. Even so, he still suffered heavy injuries. The dragon scales on his body were smashed to pieces, and his arm was almost crippled. However, the green demon god star appeared behind him and rapidly healed his injuries. In just a short while, his injuries were completely healed. As expected of a great star venerable beast's power. It's really shocking, Yi Tianyun wasn't surprised. He used this power to fly to the side quickly, then quickly pulled out his blade and swung it at the star venerable beast next to him. As the blade swept over, another star venerable beast was killed easily. "I'm fine." They felt relieved when they saw Tianyun was fine. They were even more surprised when they saw Tianyun could still kill the giant beasts. His Excellency is really amazing. He's fine, and he can still kill the giant beasts. Does he want to kill all the star venerable beasts? It's quite possible. But can he persist? The giant armored bear can catch up with him easily, and he will be attacked again. Chapter 2145. After Tianyun used the momentum to fly out, he started harvesting again. In the blink of an eye, he killed several star venerable beasts and star venerable beasts. He earned a large amount of star energy easily. "Vermin, you are still alive." The giant armored bear was furious to see that Tianyun had not been flattened by its slap. It had been confident that it could slap Tianyun to death. However, after being sent flying, not only had he not been slapped to death, but he had also continued harvesting its subordinates. How could it not be angry? In the next second, it twisted its giant body again and chased after Tianyun. Its giant body possessed an unequal speed. When it charged over, its terrifying speed could crush all Star Lords. It even had a great advantage over Star Venerables, who were cultivators. Giant beasts' greatest advantages were their power, speed, and defense. They did not know any martial arts techniques or cultivation methods. They only used their physical strength to attack fiercely. God did not give them high intelligence, but it gave them shocking bodies. However, they each had their own advantages. Cultivators' bodies were not as monstrous as the giant beasts, but they had all kinds of techniques and weapons. Even if they faced giant beasts, they could still put up a fight. However, if there was a disparity in cultivation, it would not be easy to make up for it. For example, Tianyun's side was completely beaten up. It charged over to Tianyun again and slapped him with the bear's paw again. This time, it was even more powerful than before. The giant armored bear had thought that its attack could slap Tianyun to death. In its opinion, a star venerable level cultivator was nothing more than a slap. Its slap could easily destroy the world. Ordinary star venerables would not be able to resist it. It was like a powerful star venerable beast facing the Ghana tribe's leader's attack. It would not be able to resist even one move. The giant armored bear had overlooked one thing. Tianyun was not an ordinary cultivator. He had the pure bloodline of the six-color imperial dragon. He would not be killed so easily. There was no exception this time. Tianyun took the hit just like before. He was sent flying, but he quickly healed himself. Then, he continued to clean up the giant beasts around him. But this time, his injuries were even more severe. His hands were badly mangled, and even his body was injured to the point that it was sunken in and on the verge of collapse. The palm of the giant armored bear was truly incomparably powerful and shocking. However, Tianyun's endurance was equally shocking, leaving the Ghana patriarch and the others dumbfounded. If it was them, they would definitely be severely injured by this palm. It was already good enough that they could escape, let alone continue harvesting those giant beasts. "Sir, you want to get rid of all the giant beasts so that you can keep this giant armored bear? But if that's the case, the situation doesn't seem ideal. There are still so many giant beasts. The giant armored bear rushed over very quickly, and I didn't manage to kill many of them. The giant beasts can't be killed at all. Even if we kill a batch, there will be many more giant beasts to fill the gap. They have too many resources, and their cultivations are all very strong. Damn it, we really want to go out and kill these giant beasts with Sir. They could only stay in the temple and watch. They could only watch as Tianyun was sent flying again and again. It made them feel incomparable pain. They were the descendants of the godly generals, and they should fulfill their responsibility to protect and kill the giant beasts with Tianyun. But now, they could only watch and couldn't do anything. Tianyun indeed looked like he was being beaten. He was repeatedly hit again and again, but he didn't die. He stubbornly held on. Every time, he had a strong recovery ability that helped him recover his body. This made the giant armored bear extremely angry. To it, Hyonyun was clearly a small worm, but he actually didn't die after being attacked so many times. Bang! Hyonyun was sent flying again. When he was sent flying, he quickly healed himself. Then he raised his hand again, and another batch of giant beasts died in his hands. Ha ha ha, that's enough. After killing the giant beasts, Hyonyun jumped up and laughed heartily like a madman. However, while he was acting like a madman, a beam of divine light suddenly descended from the sky. The space shielded by the verbal compliance law was forcibly torn open. Countless stars fell from the sky and fell on Hyonyun's body. Beautiful celestial music started playing and spread throughout the giant divine beast's domain. Is this? They looked at the scene excitedly. It was too familiar. When they had broken through to the star venerable realm, the same thing had happened. But it wasn't as big as this time. The sky above was full of stars, as if all the stars had appeared to celebrate him. As the divine light poured in, the power in Hyonyun's body increased crazily. It almost doubled. The ground around him was shaking. Don't even think about breaking through. The giant armored bear was both shocked and angry. It hadn't expected this practitioner to have the nerve to break through in front of it. It was a great humiliation for it. The giant armored bear pounced on Yi Xian quickly, waving its giant paws. This time, it attacked with 2 palms. All the power in its body was concentrated on the 2 palms. The air around it was compressed, as if it would explode at any moment. As long as he was hit by this attack, he would be smashed into a pulp. Hyonyun didn't even try to dodge. He looked at it coldly with the long moon azure dragon knife in his hand. He wasn't afraid of this attack at all. When breaking through, there was no invincible protective shield. If he was interrupted or smashed to death, it would be meaningless. Since he had broken through, there was no such thing as protection. As long as his opponent was strong enough, he could kill his opponent easily. Asshole, the giant armored bear is here before the master has finished breaking through. Alas, the situation of the breakthrough is not right. If only I could return to the divine palace. After all, I need some time to adapt to the breakthrough. Wait, I think the master has been fighting outside. He might have squeezed out his potential and forced himself to break through. That's true. Otherwise, the master wouldn't have said that he wanted to kill the giant beasts and force himself to break through. Now that he is facing the giant armored bear, he has squeezed out his potential to the extreme to break through. So that's how it is. I almost forgot. But now that the goal has been achieved, the master should hide in here immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge saber light broke through the void, cut through the thick giant palm, and flew into the sky. Accompanied by a scream, one of the giant armored bear's giant palms was cut into 2. When the other palm came over, it was blocked by the handle of the long moon azure dragon knife by Hyonyun. He didn't let it advance at all. He forcefully withstood the palm and easily cut off one of the hands. This scene shocked them so much that they almost bit off their own tongues. They took a few steps back in fright. Monster. Chapter 2146. The giant armored bear's defense was heaven-defying. Even the attacks of star venerables of the same level might not be able to cause such damage. Even beings of a higher level than the giant armored bear might not be able to do this. Hyonyun did it. He cut off the giant armored bear's palm with 1 slash. It was definitely the largest bear paw in history. However, Hyonyun was not interested in it. He was only interested in harvesting the giant armored bear's life. He withstood the giant armored bear's attack with his saber, but he did not move an inch under the slap. It was a world of difference compared to before. His cultivation base quickly broke through in a short amount of time. He did not need to consolidate his cultivation unless he was going through a tribulation. Otherwise, once he successfully broke through, it would be completely consolidated and there would be no problem. This was his greatest advantage, the ability to adapt to the environment at the fastest speed. How can this be? The giant armored bear ignored the pain in its palm and looked at the small human in front of it in shock. Not only was one of its palms cut off, but the other was also blocked. No matter how it tried to push forward, it could not move at all, as if it was fixed in the air. Weren't you very arrogant just now? You want to flatten me with such little power? Tianyun sneered. The long moon azure dragon saber that was holding the giant armored bear suddenly spun in his hand. A sharp saber light flew out, and the other palm of the giant armored bear fell off again. Roar! The giant armored bear let out a blood-curdling screech and took a few steps back. Every step it took made a dong-dong-dong sound as if there was an earthquake. Both palms were cut off, and the giant armored bear became a handless bear. Although it could recover, the injuries it suffered weren't that easy to recover from. Those 2 slashes had cut into its soul. The onion looked at the giant divine beast's pained expression and said coldly, "I have to say, your strength is not weak, but everything ends here. From today onwards, this place is no longer the world of giant divine beasts." Even though he had the adaptive ability of the 5-colored emperor dragon, he was still badly damaged after being attacked for so long. From this, one could tell how strong the giant armored bear was. If it wasn't for its strong adaptability, it would have been smashed to pieces long ago. Under his adaptability, his defense rapidly became stronger, but he still couldn't catch up to the giant armored bear's attack power. Now, his cultivation base had increased, and his foundation had improved tremendously. This was more powerful than any other ability. Behind Tianyun appeared the shadow of the rainbow emperor dragon. Beneath the original 6 colors, there was an additional black color. This was the power of the dark element. 5-colored emperor dragon. When the giant armored bear saw the shadow behind it, how could it not recognize such a familiar aura? This was their former enemy, so it would be hard for them not to know about him. Under the horrified gazes, Ianyun transformed into the 7-colored emperor dragon and slashed at the giant armored bear. Slash the heavens! Tianyun's eyes were filled with 7 colors. All of his elemental powers were gathered under this saber. The long moon azure dragon saber in his hand roared happily and released a 7-colored saber beam. It fused together and formed a peerless saber beam that could slash the heavens and the earth. The giant armored bear's 2 palms were quickly recovering, but the recovery speed was still too slow. In the face of this domineering saber beam, it could only quickly turn around. The giant armor on its back was the hardest and could withstand the most powerful attack. At the same time, it quickly fled forward, not daring to stay for too long. It knew that it was no match, so it could only choose to quickly escape. The giant armored bear turned around. This guy knows that the armor on its back is the hardest and wants to block Lord's attack. Damn it, I hope I can kill it with 1 slash. Otherwise, if it escapes, it will definitely be stronger next time. The Ghana patriarch and the others gritted their teeth, hoping that Tianyun could kill it with this slash. If this giant armored bear didn't die, the next time it returned, it would definitely be a lot stronger. After all, after experiencing a fierce battle, it could stimulate one's potential. At that time, one's ability would definitely be improved a lot. Tianyun's eyes were expressionless. He didn't even chase after it. He just watched the saber beam slash forward. Very quickly, the saber beam cut through the thick armor like it was cutting through tofu. It then continued to cut inwards until the armor was completely broken. The entire saber beam easily pierced through the giant armored bear's body. The giant armored bear continued to run forward, but after a few steps, it was suddenly cut in half in midair. A rain of blood suddenly fell from all directions, splattering all over the ground. Boom! The giant armored bear's huge body fell heavily to the ground, no longer breathing. The giant armored bear was really dead. Its soul had been cut in half. How could it not be dead? Ding! Successfully killed giant armor bear. Obtained 400 million star energy and 500 slay points. Obtained giant armored bear's armor, rare, giant armored bear's blood, and glittering golden door, super rare. Glittering golden door leads to an unknown area. Everything is random. Made of special materials. The giant armored bear had been killed so easily. The Ghana tribe leader and the others were stunned. Logically speaking, no matter how powerful the saber beam was, it would at most break a little of the giant armored bear's defense. It shouldn't have been able to cut the giant armored bear in half. They all knew how powerful the giant armored bear was. A giant armored bear in the late stage of the Star Venerable realm could resist an attack from a Grand Star Venerable. If it had reached the Grand Star Venerable realm, its resistance would have been even stronger. But against Yi Tianyun's saber, it was like tofu. It had been easily cut in half. They all gasped. There was only one possibility for such an outcome. Yi Tianyun was too powerful. He had amazing power. If he could kill the giant armored bear so easily, doesn't that mean we don't have to worry about the giant divine beast? The Ghana tribe leader murmured, as if he had seen their hope. They had always been suppressed by the giant divine beast and could only hide underground. They even had to change places frequently. Otherwise, they would be found. They had had enough of such days, but in order to survive, they could only hide everywhere and struggle at death's door. But it was different now. They saw hope in Tianyun. They had thought that it would take a long time, but now it seemed that it wouldn't take that long. He might be able to successfully escape with them and even kill the giant divine beast. Of course, killing the giant divine beast was just a thought. They didn't hope to kill the giant divine beast. They just wanted to leave this place. They would wait for them to recuperate for a while and increase their cultivation before coming back. Chapter 2147. In the center of the giant divine beast's domain, a black silhouette opened its eyes and looked at the sky. Its eyes were filled with killing intent. A cultivator actually broke through to the Grand Star Venerable realm? This is impossible. How could he possibly break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm with my restrictions? The black shadow was both shocked and angry. It seemed like this had exceeded its expectations, which made it extremely angry. No one liked things that exceeded their expectations. The black silhouette trembled and stood up. The space around it started to tremble, but it quickly sat down again. When I completely transform, it will be the time of your deaths. The black silhouette spoke very fluently. It didn't sound like a normal giant beast could speak. Lord, do you need me to take action? A pleasant voice rang out next to him. Another black silhouette appeared next to him and knelt on the ground. Okay, I'll leave it to you. I'll need some time to completely transform, but I don't want this unstable factor to remain in my domain. Thank you for your trust, Lord. I'll definitely eliminate this unstable factor. Okay. The black silhouette concealed itself again. It seemed to be cultivating something. Everything was quiet. The black silhouette quickly left, leaving the black silhouette alone there. There were many divine herbs here. A casual grab would reveal that they were at least heavenly star level 4 or 5. If they were in the outside world, they would definitely shock the world. After Yi Tianyun killed a group of giant beasts, the rest of the giant beasts were easy to deal with. With Yi Tianyun's powerful cultivation, he easily killed all of them. Without the interference of the giant armored bear, Yi Tianyun eliminated the surrounding giant beasts very easily. He even opened the gate of the shrine and let the Ghana tribe's chief and the others come out to help clear the surrounding giant beasts. When the surrounding giant beasts saw that their leader, the giant armored bear, was dead, they naturally fled quickly. Since the giant armored bear was dead, they no longer had a leader to give orders to. They all chose to flee in all directions. They moved as fast as they could, but they couldn't outrun Yi Tianyun, the Ghana tribe chief, and the others. After harvesting all the giant beasts nearby, the Ghana patriarch and the others came to Yi Tianyun and said in surprise, "Sir, you are really too powerful. After breaking through, you can easily deal with the giant armored bear. If it were us, we wouldn't even dare to think about it." That's right. At this rate, he can even deal with a giant divine beast. Previously, they were worried about Yi Tianyun's situation, but now, they were all standing by Yi Tianyun's side. Yi Tianyun's performance was too heaven-defying. They were all very excited and saw hope. It's hard to say for the giant divine beast, I don't know how strong it is. I dare not say that I can deal with them, but at least I won't be in a completely passive state. Yi Tianyun didn't dare to be careless. He had never dared to underestimate his enemy. Unless he was absolutely invincible, he wouldn't dare to underestimate his enemy. That's true. The most terrifying thing is to have no power to fight back and can only escape. Even if you escape, you will be in an extremely passive state. They shook their heads and sighed. They had experienced this feeling deeply. Then, they began to repair the shrine. With their level, even if it wasn't very heaven-defying, it was at least not a problem to repair the shrine. Although it wasn't as strong as before, it was better than not repairing it at all. At this time, Tianyun began to move the shrine. The shrine could be moved. The shrine was equivalent to a magic treasure of the world. A shrine that could become big or small and could not be moved was a product of a long time ago. Nowadays, things could be moved at will. If it couldn't be moved, it would be too backward. After spending so much money to build the shrine, it was equivalent to a fortress. If it couldn't be moved, it would be a great waste. During the repair, Tianyun quickly moved the shrine and flew back to the tribe. They definitely had to go back. It was undoubtedly safer to repair in their own tribe. After returning to the tribe, they started to repair the shrine without stopping. Tianyun also participated. His repair level was not bad either. After all, he was at the level of a level 3 astral tattoo, so he could repair it. However, he basically didn't have much star energy left. Otherwise, he would have leveled up as an astral tattoo master to repair faster. After frantically repairing the shrine had been repaired quite a bit. At the very least, they could build another wall. Their return is like a shot of adrenaline in everyone's heart, especially when they learned that Tianyun killed the giant armored bear. They were even more shocked, and they became more and more respectful towards Tianyun. While they were repairing the shrine, Tianyun suddenly felt a sense of danger behind him. He quickly turned around and saw a beautiful woman standing behind them. Tianyun's pupils constricted, and detailed information appeared in front of him. Charm Beast. Through special cultivation, it becomes close to the state of a cultivator. It has extremely high intelligence and can also cultivate cultivation techniques. Its cultivation has reached the middle stage of a grand star venerable. It is extremely dangerous. Tianyun did not pay attention to the rest of the information. He only felt his hair stand on end. The beautiful woman in front of him was actually a charm beast. After a series of modifications, she became a cultivator. He had to admit that he was extremely shocked. Most importantly, she had appeared in the Light Moon tribe without anyone noticing. The situation outside had not changed at all. The tribesmen were still doing what they were supposed to do. It seemed like they did not notice the woman's intrusion. The Ghana tribe's leader and the others were still busy and did not notice that someone was standing behind them. It would be strange if they knew that they were facing a grand star venerable. If it weren't for Tianyun's sensitivity and his cultivation being a great star venerable, he wouldn't have noticed it. "Can we go out and fight?" Tianyun said in a deep voice. His words made the Ghana tribe's leader and the others turn around in confusion. They did not know what Tianyun meant. What fight? Was he tired of repairing the shrine and wanted to go out and fight? When they turned their heads to look, they realized that there was an unfamiliar face behind them, which really gave them a fright. Especially this aura. It seemed quite unusual. The beautiful woman sized up Tianyun and said calmly, "Are you the one who killed the giant armored bear?" "Well, it's impossible for them to kill the giant armored bear since your cultivation is higher." "I killed it. It has nothing to do with them. If you want to take revenge, let's go out and fight. What do you think?" Tianyun did not want a fight to break out here. If a fight broke out, the Light Moon tribe would be flattened. A fight between Grand Star Venerables was no joke. Once it broke out, it would definitely destroy the world. The beautiful woman looked around calmly. "You killed so many of my subordinates, yet you want to negotiate with me? What gives you the right?" Chapter 2148. The Charm Beast's words made Tianyun's heart sink. A Grand Star Venerable's attack was no joke, especially when he had modified himself and turned into a cultivator. It seemed like he had the powerful body of a giant beast and the cultivation method of a cultivator. This reminded him of the divine beasts like the dragon race and the phoenix race. They were considered the devil race. Gigantic beasts were gigantic beasts. They were not demons, nor were they cultivators. They belonged to a more primitive type of savage beast. It was impossible to say that they were inferior to the dragon race because they had not evolved. This was a selective evolution of their race. They thought it was enough to evolve their bodies and power. There was no need for them to combine with the abilities of a cultivator. It was not to the extent of calling them low-level. However, they had modified themselves into a cultivator. It seemed like a slap in the face, denying their previous state. In fact, they had found a new form. It looked like a cultivator state, but it did not look like a cultivator state. Through the search of the appraisal eye, the combination of the two was perfect. They both had corresponding abilities. It seemed like they had not chosen to evolve into a cultivator state because they would have given up on a certain physical state. In the end, they could only give up. Now that he had found a way to do it, he chose to evolve like this. No matter how much cultivators cultivated, they could not catch up to the defense of a giant beast's body. However, they could absorb bloodlines and other things to strengthen their bodies greatly. They could also use divine medicines. Only then could their bodies become extremely powerful, even surpassing the bodies of giant beasts. Of course, they could not surpass all levels. They could only surpass a certain level of cultivation. As their cultivation increased, the giant beasts' bodies would become more and more monstrous. Cultivators could still surpass giant beasts, but they had to pay a great price. Not every cultivator had a large amount of resources to improve themselves. Therefore, the bodies of giant beasts were usually several times, or even a dozen times stronger, than cultivators at the same level of cultivation. They were even several times stronger than the devil race, which combined their bodies perfectly. This was the effect brought about by persevering all the time. It allowed one's ability to constantly improve. Therefore, giant beasts were not so terrifying. After all, giant beasts could not use any treasures or cultivation methods. Cultivators could use these to make up for their shortcomings and kill their opponents. He had not been in this world for a long time, but he still knew quite a lot about the giant beasts. But now, things were different. This charm beast before him had toppled Yi Tianyun's understanding of the world. It was completely different from what was recorded. It possessed a completely new form of evolution. It could be said that the perfect combination of the two was the charm beast. The Ghana patriarch and the others could smell an extremely unusual aura. Moreover, it was an extremely dangerous aura. They looked at the charm beast up and down, but did not think of the giant beast. They were just a little puzzled. Yi Tianyun had killed many of her subordinates. When did he do that? Even if the charm beast mentioned the giant armored bear, they didn't think of it as a giant beast. All this while, the giant beasts had never appeared in such a state, nor had there been any signs of evolution in this regard. Because the person you want to kill is me, not them. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice, "If I want to escape, I can still escape. If you go out and fight with me, I'm willing to fight with you. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm not the giant armored bear, nor am I as easy to fool as those low-level giant beasts." The charm beast walked over step by step, its eyes flickering with a faint light. "I want you to come over and submit to me." Circles of light were released, and the gazes of the Ghana patriarch and the others became slightly blurry. It was obvious that they were being charmed. "Wake up." Yi Tianyun stomped his foot fiercely, and a wave of energy spread out, waking the Ghana patriarch and the others up from the charm. After they woke up, they looked at the charm beast in shock, but they quickly lowered their heads, not daring to look at the charm beast. "Who is this person? Her charm is so powerful we were immediately lost." They were extremely shocked. They were all Star Venerable Realm experts, but they were charmed in the blink of an eye. "She is a giant beast with the state of a cultivator. She has undergone a relatively perfect evolution. Although it's not the most perfect state, it's close to perfection." Yi Tianyun looked at the charm beast with a sharp gaze. He was not afraid of the charm at all. This kind of charm was not a problem for him at all. "What? It's a giant beast." They were stunned. They were scared again, but this time they were scared silly. They had not dared to look at the charm beast, but now they were so scared that they raised their heads and stared at the charm beast. They carefully sized up the charm beast, but they could not tell that it was a giant beast. How did you see through me? The charm beast only asked now. At first, when Yi Tianyun said that, she was a little stunned, but she did not directly reveal her identity. Now that Yi Tianyun had explained it in detail, it seemed that he could see through it very accurately. Go out and fight and I'll tell you, Yi Tianyun said coldly. Also, put away your charm, it's meaningless to me. Okay, we can go out and fight, but tell me the details later. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing everyone. Towards the end, her tone became extremely cold, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. Oh, I don't think you'll kill them all. If you wanted to kill them all, you would have already done so, right? You could easily find their hiding place, but you didn't do anything. In my opinion, you should be keeping them in captivity and then devouring them bit by bit, right? Yi Tianyun guessed again. The charm beast must know if it could find this place so easily. In his opinion, even a great star venerable would need some time to find this place. It was not something that could be found immediately. Yet, she could come here so easily, which meant that she already knew. She knew long ago, but she did not do anything. This was no different from the green demon race. They were just keeping cultivators in captivity, then fattening them up before harvesting them again. My guess is that you were able to cultivate to this level because you devoured the descendants of the 5-colored emperor dragons, as well as the descendants of the other divine generals. Yi Tianyun continued guessing. The giant beast did not have many hobbies, but it liked devouring the descendants of the 5-colored emperor dragons. The charm beast's eyes were cold, and instantly a powerful charm was released crazily towards Yi Tianyun, as if all of its charm was released at once, and it was only aimed at Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes and faced the charm head-on, but his eyes didn't blur at all. Chapter 2149. The charm of the charm beast had no effect on Yi Tianyun, unless there was a huge difference in cultivation. Otherwise, with his strong willpower, it would not be able to affect him in the slightest. The charm beast was startled. She thought that she could charm Yi Tianyun. Tianyun knew too much. She wanted to dig out all the memories in Yi Tianyun's head, but unfortunately, she couldn't do it. Yi Tianyun was not affected by the charm at all. It was as if she had released it for nothing. Her charm power, the power that she was proud of, was useless against Yi Tianyun here. She was a charm beast, but she was unable to charm her opponent. This was truly a waste of her talent. Alright, I'll go out with you. Tell me everything. Otherwise, even if I don't exterminate all the tribes, at least a portion of the cultivators will disappear from this world. In the end, the charm beast compromised. She really wanted to know how Yi Tianyun knew so much. It seemed that he was not simple at all. Don't worry, I won't run away. Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent. He turned around and flew out, the corner of his mouth hooked into a smile. Lord, we'll go with you. They all reacted, not wanting to let Yi Tianyun take the risk alone. Yi Tianyun did not refuse. He only nodded slightly, indicating that he agreed. The charm beast did not launch a sneak attack. Instead, she followed closely behind, her beautiful eyes flickering with a strange light. No one knew what she was thinking about. However, Yi Tianyun's words had a huge impact on her. Not to mention that it had a huge impact on her, even the Jia clan leader and the others were extremely shocked. Especially when he said that he already knew where they were hiding, but he didn't destroy them on purpose. Instead, he kept them in captivity. Once they were fattened up, they would start harvesting them. When they thought about it carefully, they realized that it was true. It wasn't easy for them to make a move, but then they would be attacked by huge beasts. Some of the more talented ones, or the clan leaders, would be captured or devoured. For example, the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber originally did not have any reaction. When there was no reaction, it could not be used as a key to open the Divine Hall. When there was a reaction, the huge beasts would immediately attack. Everything seemed very strange. It could only be said that they had been targeted from the very beginning. This made them very disappointed. They had thought that they had been hiding well, but it seemed like a joke. Hiding? They had done it on purpose. Thinking about it, where could they escape to under the watch of a star venerable? Even if the major star venerables could not find them immediately, It would not be a problem if they put in some effort. Unless they had set up a concealing formation that could deceive even great star venerables. However, they did not have the ability to do so at the moment. Even if they set up more layers, they would still be able to find it easily if they spent a little more time. They went out. The charm beast kept her promise and did not attack them. But they did not have that. Beast. Tian beast, beast. Leader. Was that? Tian Yun. Beast Ling beast, was being, king I was, beast said. King. Ling On and Ling Shou was Yun. King. It was impossible for Yi Tianyun to survive. She had come to kill Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun was an unstable factor. If he continued cultivating, he would be a threat to them. It's my honor. I'll tell you everything, and I'll keep my corpse intact? Yi Tianyun said calmly. Tell me and I'll keep your corpse intact. If you don't tell me, not only will your corpse be intact, but they will also die. Make your choice, the charm beast said coldly. What if I don't want to choose? Yi Tianyun said calmly. I want to live, not die. Sorry, but you don't have a choice. The charm beast released a faint pink energy that spread into the surroundings. The ground started to shake. The huge beasts in the distance knelt down, not daring to move. Is that so? I don't have a choice? Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile, but I'll keep my promise and tell you why I know so much. The charm beast narrowed its eyes. It didn't say anything but listened attentively. The Ghana clan leader and the others listened attentively. They didn't know why Yi Tianyun knew so much. Even they didn't know that much. The reason is very simple. It's just my guess. Yi Tianyun shrugged. You're playing with me? The charm beast was furious. It had fulfilled its promise, but it had received such a perfunctory answer. When the Ghana clan leader and the others heard this, they immediately burst out laughing. This was indeed an answer. I'm not playing with you. I was indeed guessing, just randomly guessing. It seems that I guessed correctly. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so anxious. Yi Tianyun laughed. This was not a lie. He had truly deduced it step by step, based on the surrounding situation and the actions of the charm beast. After deducing it step by step, he had a general idea of what was going on. The charm beast's face darkened, its gloomy expression almost dripping water. Very well, then you can die now. The charm beast grabbed Yi Tianyun's side, and suddenly a huge charm beast appeared behind Yi Tianyun. Although it wasn't a star dharma aspect, this was its main dharma aspect. The effect it brought was also extremely strong. It grabbed at the air and instantly surrounded the area where Yi Tianyun was. Its terrifying power was far beyond the level of an ordinary mid-stage star venerable. Even the giant armored bear was worlds apart in comparison. The charm beast's evolution was really too terrifying. It was a qualitative leap. After fusing the power of the two, the charm beast displayed an astonishing level of power. It reached out and grabbed at the air. It contained terrifying power, and the most shocking thing was the power of the martial technique. The martial arts she had displayed were not ordinary martial arts, but galaxy-grade martial arts. She attacked as soon as she said she would. It was indeed similar to the giant beast style, without any hesitation. The seven-colored Emperor Dragon's image immediately appeared behind Yi Tianyun, instantly overshadowing the charm beast's main dharma aspect. The charm beast was stunned when the seven-colored Emperor Dragon's image appeared. She did not expect Yi Tianyun to have the seven-colored Emperor Dragon's star aspect. The inheritor of the five-colored Emperor Dragon? The charm beast was stunned at first, then a fanatical look appeared in her eyes. I didn't expect you to be such a treasure. Oh, looks like you'll leave me with an intact corpse and devour me instead, right? When Yi Tianyun saw her burning eyes, he knew that she was tempted. Chapter 2150. The charm beast's attacks were very sharp. Even if it was a woman, the moves it executed were very fierce. Her palms turned into sharp claws. The behemoth was born with a strong physique, so she did not need any weapons to match the power of some weapons. To put it bluntly, the sharp claws that were stretched out were at least equivalent to Star River-class weapons. It was not that they were far more powerful than a galaxy-grade weapon, but they were as hard as a galaxy-grade weapon. This was the advantage of the behemoth. The armor and claws on its body would improve as its cultivation increased. It was like a blacksmith who could make tailor-made weapons and armor for itself. Death Claw. The charm beast swung its claws down, trying to tear Yi Tianyun to pieces. Anyway, even if it tore him to pieces, it could swallow him alive. There was no difference. It seemed like a simple attack, but it contained the power of death. The pink energy in the surroundings suddenly turned pitch black. It enveloped Yi Tianyun as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. The expressions of the Ghana patriarch and the others changed. They quickly tried to help block it. They knew that they were not strong enough to block it, but they could only help block it now. You guys retreat to the back. Let me deal with her. Yi Tianyun laughed loudly. He was not afraid even when facing the charm beast. Ever since his cultivation broke through to the great star venerable realm, there was nothing to be afraid of, unless it was extremely heaven-defying. He quickly drew his saber. As he drew it, the long moon azure dragon saber drew a crescent moon and whizzed forward, colliding with the death claw. Boom! The two energies exploded. A black light broke through his attack and slashed at Yi Tianyun. It was obvious that the charm beast's power was superior. It easily suppressed Yi Tianyun's counterattack. Yi Tianyun did not panic. He seemed to have expected this. When the black light was about to hit him, he counterattacked again. He slashed with his saber again, but it was neutralized by the attack. It's not bad, but it doesn't match your power. You are able to cultivate martial arts, but it is not suitable for you. It seems that you still have a long way to go. While Yi Tianyun seemed to be at a disadvantage, he had managed to exchange a move with the charm beast, which was a middle-stage Grand Star Venerate, without suffering any injuries. Of course, he had to add in the crazy damage mode, stacking 25 times his strength to be able to achieve this. If he didn't do that, he really wouldn't be able to resist the charm beast's attack. Even so, it was still a victory for him. Under such circumstances, it was a draw. Didn't that mean that there was something wrong with the opponent? If the charm beast had a martial art that matched her moves, then its power would definitely be even more astonishing. It's enough to deal with you. The charm beast's expression was cold as she continued to wave her claws and charge forward. She did not attack from afar again, but directly charged forward, wanting to fight Yi Tianyun at close range. She had the physique of a giant beast, so she wasn't worried about the opponent's attack. At the same time, she knew that she wasn't very familiar with her moves, and it didn't really suit her situation. However, there were limited resources in this area, and she couldn't find anything suitable for her. It seemed that they had just obtained it not long ago. Under such circumstances, they could only make do with their cultivation. Therefore, she directly charged over and subdued Yi Tianyun with her greatest advantage. Good timing. Yi Tianyun laughed loudly. He held the long moon azure dragon saber and laughed at the sky. Everyone cheer for me. The Ghana tribe's chief and the others all unleashed their star materialization, and a wave of star power immediately appeared above them. They didn't know why Yi Tianyun wanted them to do this, but they just had to do it. There was no need to think too much about it. You're still interfering? The charm beast's gaze was cold. Then don't blame me for being rude later. The charm beast didn't mind devouring them. Anyone who tried to stop her would die. They have no intention of interfering. They're just watching from the side. Yi Tianyun leaped and retreated quickly. Of course, you won't have the chance. Yi Tianyun dodged her attack range, but the charm beast wouldn't let him succeed. She chased after him at an even faster speed. You cultivators are not only full of lies, but also very arrogant. Do you think you can escape? The charm beast sneered, her eyes filled with coldness. Escape? I have no intention of escaping. Yi Tianyun laughed loudly. He suddenly turned around and transformed into the seven-colored emperor dragon. He directly devoured their star power, devouring 4 pieces of star power in a row. His star materialization had been upgraded to the 4th level, so he could devour the star power of 4 cultivators. The charm beast didn't have any star power, so he couldn't devour it even if he wanted to. In the blink of an eye, he devoured the star power of the 4 tribe leaders. Each of them had 5 cubic meters of star power. At the same time, most of the star power that was converted to Lee Tianyun increased from his own 35 cubic meters to 45 cubic meters. It increased his star power by 10 cubic meters. The conversion rate was only half, but it was already quite incredible. Of course, it wasn't over. Lee Tianyun summoned the Starlight King materialization again and danced behind him, adding star power to 3 cubic meters. Together with the burning wrath of heavens, its power increased by 2 cubic meters again. In total, it reached 50 cubic meters of star power. 50 cubic meters of star power was definitely enough to scare a group of people to tears. At least, the Ghana tribe leader and the rest were shocked. They could only reach 30 cubic meters of star power after working hard, but Lee Tianyun could reach 50 cubic meters. What did that mean? After 40 cubic meters of star power, every increase in star power was equivalent to a 5-fold increase in power. An increase of 10 cubic meters was equivalent to a 50-fold increase in power, not including the previous increase in power. Under the superposition, Lee Tianyun's body emitted a dazzling divine light, and the long moon azure dragon saber in his hand trembled crazily, as if it had sensed an extremely terrifying power, making it extremely excited. Because that was the only way it could unleash its maximum power. Even though its power had decreased due to the corrosion, it was still an extremely powerful weapon, yearning for its owner to unleash great power. It's over! Lee Tianyun quickly waved the long moon azure dragon saber and slashed at the charm beast that was chasing after him. Instant flash. Chaotic star slash. Lee Tianyun shouted, and everything was enveloped by the light. The area in front of him was enveloped, including the charm beast, which was devoured by the light. Even a large area in front of him was devoured by the light. It was as if half of the giant divine beast territory had been completely devoured by Lee Tianyun's slash. Chapter 2151. The blade light disappeared, and everything returned to its original state. A large area in front of them had been plowed flat, and some of it had even caved in. Looking around, the dense forest from before had completely disappeared, and all they could see was an endless expanse of flat land. It was not that more than half of the giant divine beast domain had been cut off, but at least the vast and boundless forest in front of them had disappeared in front of their eyes. Behind them, there was a large forest. In comparison, they thought that they had walked out of the forest. However, this forest would quickly grow back. The life force here was too dense, and it wouldn't take long for it to recover. However, the shock of this slash would forever remain in the hearts of the Ghana patriarch and the others. Is that beast dead? Their hearts trembled. With such a powerful force, if it were them, they would have definitely turned into dust. However, that was them, not the charm beasts. They did not know if the heaven-defying charm beasts could withstand this move. When they swept their gaze forward, they immediately saw the figure of the charm beast. The originally beautiful woman had long since become a half-crippled state. Her entire body was only left with her head, and even her head had become fragmented, looking like it was about to explode. Such a powerful charm beast was still able to withstand Lee Tianyun's attack and did not completely die. However, it seemed that it was indeed very tragic. She had basically lost the ability to escape, let alone counterattack. However, she did not die, which meant that the charm beast was really too strong. If she had a companion by her side, as long as they saved her and recuperated for a period of time, she would be able to completely recover. The damage to the soul was rather serious, but it was better than completely dying. Whether it was a cultivator or a huge beast, when they encountered a serious attack, they would definitely prioritize protecting their heads. Protecting their souls was the most important thing. If the soul was broken, then there was no point in having a powerful body. As for now, she was at his mercy. Lee Tianyun came to the side of the charm beast. Seeing that it had not completely turned into dust, he was not surprised. These guys still had some means of protection. No matter what, they had to protect their heads. However, she did not have a companion by her side, so it was meaningless. What was the use of living? Wasn't she just waiting for him to harvest her? Lee Tianyun grabbed her head and lifted it up. Her originally beautiful face now looked so tragic. Lee Tianyun did not have such thoughts. He had never had such thoughts. No matter who provoked him, they had to die. Even if it was a child who had just learned to walk or an old man who was about to die, as long as they provoked him, he would not show mercy. As for whether it was a man or a woman, it did not matter. Unfortunately, you can't devour me anymore. Lee Tianyun held her head and said indifferently, your power, how could it become so strong? The charm beast could barely make a sound. She was already extremely weak, and her voice was very soft, almost inaudible. This is the power of companions. Since you can't devour me, it's my turn to devour you. Lee Tianyun said indifferently. Immediately after, he used the super soul searching technique to search the soul crazily, easily searching the memories in the charm beast's mind. However, he did not have a chance to search the soul of the demon. This charm beast was much better. She let him search her soul casually. After a round of soul searching, he had thoroughly investigated the situation of the charm beast. The more he learned, the darker his face became. How can you search my memories? The charm beast roared angrily. However, it was meaningless. She could not even fight back. You don't need to know that. Lee Tianyun quickly activated the soul bloodline in his body to completely erase the charm beast's soul. He wanted to keep the charm beast's soul and make a soul puppet. After all, she was a great star venerable. He could not let her go. The situation was suitable for him to use the soul bloodline, so he did it. When the charm beast felt her consciousness being erased, she let out a final scream. My lord will take revenge for me, don't worry. He won't have the chance. Lee Tianyun increased the strength in his hand. The charm beast's consciousness was completely erased. All that was left was the ball of soul energy. Ding! Successfully killed charm beast. 500 million star energy points obtained. 1,000 kill points. Charm beast's eyes, rare. Charm beast's blood essence, charm fruit, rare. Charm fruit, after eating, permanently increases the charm effect of the user's eyes. Can charm the enemy. The effect increases as one's cultivation increases. This thing was not bad, but it was useless for now. After dealing with it, he put away the charm beast's soul and turned to look at the Ghana tribe leader and the others. The situation isn't good, Lee Tianyun said with a gloomy expression. My lord, what situation isn't good? The expressions of the Ghana tribe leader and the others changed. Since Lee Tianyun said so, the situation was definitely not simple, especially since he had searched the charm beast's soul. They did not know how he had done it, but it seemed like he had really emptied all of his memories. The giant divine beast is also in the process of transforming. Once it succeeds, you will definitely be eliminated. Just as I said before, you will be captured from time to time and fed to the giant divine beast to increase its bloodline power. They will continue to devour and transform themselves. That way, they will be able to combine the abilities of the two. Now that the giant divine beast is about to complete its transformation and become a perfect body, it will be very difficult to deal with. Lee Tianyun could sense the terrifying power from the charm beast's memories. The giant divine beast seemed to be at the peak of the major star venerable level. Once it completed its transformation, it would probably advance to an even higher level. That was the level above the major star venerable level, which was an even more terrifying level. Even if it had not broken through, the giant divine beast, which was originally at the peak of the major star venerable level, would be invincible when combined with the abilities of a cultivator. In other words, we have lost our value and will be eliminated? The expressions of the Ghana tribe leader and the others sank. Was it really abandoning them after using them? They did not want to be slaughtered. That's right. At that time, it will leave the giant divine beast's domain and head to other regions. It will probably lead many giant beasts to conquer this world. Lee Tianyun raised his head and looked at the sky. At that time, there will probably be a series of crises. Who knows how many lives will be affected by this war? Chapter 2152. Yi Tianyun was not a savior. The destruction of the other worlds had nothing to do with him. He only wanted to solve this problem and rescue the Ghana Patriarch and the others. Actually, he could still rescue them through the super teleportation God Stone. As long as he stored them in the small world, he could use the super teleportation God Stone to leave. Of course, before that he needed to return to his original world, set the coordinates there, and then teleport back. This way, he would waste two opportunities. However, it was still very worth it to obtain so many powerhouses. Especially a group of very loyal subordinates, how could he not be happy? However, this was a bit of a waste. No matter what, it was two opportunities. The best was to know what was going on in this area and where exactly they were hiding. The giant divine beast territory had always been an unknown area, and no one knew where the coordinates were. He wanted to go out and see where exactly this place was. Now that his cultivation had increased, he could break the verbal compliance law set up by the giant divine beast, which meant that he could bring them out of this place. However, he was a little unwilling to let the giant divine beast go just like that. After all, it was such a big fat sheep. It would be a pity to let it go just like that. Now that the giant divine beast was in the midst of transformation, if he could launch a sneak attack, he might be able to suppress the giant divine beast. This way, there would definitely be no worries. But what came with it was danger. Through the charm beast's memories, he knew that the giant divine beast was very powerful. Even in his current state, he might not be able to fight against the giant divine beast. Unless the giant divine beast was really in the process of transformation, and its movements were very restricted, or its power could not be unleashed. This was still unknown, and the charm beast did not know the details of the giant divine beast state. Facing a subordinate, the giant divine beast would not casually tell others about its situation, even if it trusted its subordinate. Under such circumstances, the information that Yi Tianyun knew was very little, so it was not easy to act. Seeing that Yi Tianyun was deep in thought, the Ghana Patriarch and the others did not speak, so as not to disturb him. Gather all the people in the tribe and prepare to leave at any time, Tianyun suddenly ordered. Yes. They nodded heavily, and their eyes were filled with surprise. They really wanted to deal with the giant divine beasts, but the giant divine beasts were really too powerful. Moreover, the deeper they went, the more powerful the giant divine beasts would be. If they went alone, the danger could be imagined. Of course, they could also go and help. After witnessing Yi Tianyun's power, they knew that Yi Tianyun could absorb other people's astral powers to enhance his own. In that case, it was necessary for them to go together. With their assistance, he would definitely be able to increase his strength by a large margin. The giant beasts did not have any star power to devour, so it was naturally difficult for them to improve themselves. Now that they were prepared to leave, it meant that they did not intend to fight the giant divine beast head-on. This made them heave a sigh of relief. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but they didn't want Yi Tianyun to take the risk. Just as they were about to gather their clansmen, Tianyun suddenly grabbed Chieftain Ghana and said, "I'll go to the giant divine beast now. If the giant divine beast counterattacks, we'll escape together." "Sir, are you really going to meet the giant divine beast?" Chieftain Ghana and the rest were stunned. They thought that Yi Tianyun would not go to the giant divine beast, but it seemed like they were overthinking. "Yes, I'm going to meet the giant divine beast. Even if I can't kill it, I can at least plunder its belongings." Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. With the charm beast's memories, entering the beast's territory was equivalent to entering his own home. This was also the reason why he insisted on going. With the memories in his mind, he would really be at ease. "Sir, we'll go with you." They all stepped forward and planned to go with Yi Tianyun to the tiger's den. "No need, I'll go alone this time. Your task now is to gather all the clansmen and get ready to leave this place." Yi Tianyun shook his head. "But those giant divine beasts can't use star power. If you go alone, how are you going to devour it?" They knew Yi Tianyun's ability. He had to devour star power to enhance his own strength. "No need, I'm not going to fight the giant divine beast, so I don't need your help." Yi Tianyun smiled and said, "That's good." They all heaved a sigh of relief. Although they knew that Yi Tianyun was very strong, The giant divine beast was not simple. It was so old. In addition, there were so many powerhouses inside. If they surrounded it slightly, Hyun would be exhausted to death. After feeling relieved, they went to gather their clansmen. Hyun flew directly to the area where the giant divine beast was, and he could easily find a way to avoid it along the way. At the same time, he started to continuously throw materials into the charm beast's soul, trying to create a giant divine beast. He collected a lot of materials along the way, especially in the treasure vault. There were still many related materials. After a series of fierce smashes, the form of the giant beast quickly took shape in his inner world. He naturally had to create this giant beast's body in his inner world. It would not be easy to create it outside, and it would be very conspicuous. Soon, the puppet in his inner world quickly took shape, forming a giant beast. It looked similar to the charm beast from before, but there were still many differences. The materials were all different, and it was difficult to form the charm beast from before. Due to the corresponding materials, there were still some similarities. For example, he would not let go of the charm beast's eyes. There were also other materials obtained from killing giant beasts. He threw them all in. He had killed many giant beasts, and the materials that they dropped were quite astonishing. It was just nice that he could use them to smash this giant beast. If he could create a puppet, he would be able to easily sneak in. This was just like the evil spirit race's puppet that he had created in the past. The effect was quite good, and no one could recognize it. This provided him with a very good way to sneak in. This was also the reason why he planned to sneak in. Very soon, the giant beast was built. It looked a little odd and looked quite strange. Fortunately, he had specially created it, and it looked a little similar to the charm beast. However, it was not a charm beast in human form, but a real charm beast. The real charm beast was not good-looking. It did not look charming at all, but its eyes were full of charm, and its body was quite small. Other than that, it only had some sharp claws. There was nothing to look at, but it looked a little domineering. Its cultivation was not bad, and it had reached the late stage of Star Venerable Realm. He had obtained a lot of materials, and they were all high-level materials. For example, he had thrown in the giant armored bear's materials. This way, the puppet would have the giant armored bear's armor, and it was quite hard. Okay, I'll take it. Chapter 2153. After Lee Tianyun brought out the giant beast puppet, he quickly hid inside its body. He could finally rest in peace. Even if the giant divine beast was in front of him, it would not be able to recognize him. Unless Lee Tianyun ordered the giant beast puppet to act recklessly or offend the giant divine beast, there would be no problem. He had the charm beast's memories, so he knew what to do and what not to do here. As long as he did not do it on purpose, there would be no problem. Soon, he quickly went deep into the giant divine beast domain. There was a gathering place here, but there were rarely any giant beasts gathering there. Giant beasts were not social species. They were scattered all over the place. However, if a superior giant beast gathered a little, the nearby giant beasts would quickly rush over. For example, the giant armored bear. If they gathered a little, a large number of giant beasts would swarm over and obey their orders. As a result, there would usually not be any giant beasts gathering in this area. The giant beasts did not have high spiritual intelligence. They did not know how to forge weapons or concoct elixirs. As a result, apart from offering some mature divine medicines, they would usually stay near the giant divine beast domain. If Lee Tianyun wanted to go deep inside, he would have to prepare divine medicines and offer them. Otherwise, he would not even have the chance to enter the gate. Even if the giant beast puppet's cultivation reached the Star Venerable level, it would be the same. Only if it broke through to the Grand Star Venerable level could it stay inside. Or if it was a giant beast in a metamorphosis state, it could stay inside. Ordinary giant beasts could only be described as stupid. The giant divine beasts and the others would not associate with them. Although they were companions, they were divided into different levels. If they were of different levels, they could not stay in this area. After learning about this, Lee Tianyun was not surprised. Such a strict system was actually no different from the imperial palaces in the lower realms. Those with high cultivation or who had made contributions could stay in the imperial palace or nearby areas. Ordinary people and cultivators could only stay outside. Anyone who dared to enter would be killed on the spot. Soon, he arrived at the inner part of the city of giant beasts. This place was simply surrounded by thick walls, indicating that no one could trespass here. 2 giant star venerable beasts were standing outside the gate, staring at the giant beasts that were going in. If those giant beasts didn't come in with spiritual herbs, they would be driven out. Lee Tianyun took out a few matured spirit herbs and placed them on top of his head before joining the queue. When he entered, the guardian beast only glanced at him briefly and then ignored him, allowing him to enter. After entering, the situation of the city of giant beasts came into view. The interior was also very simple and crude, and there was nothing special about it. As for the grand formation layout, there was even less of it, but it was enough to scare people to death. This place was filled with all kinds of spirit stones condensed with different kinds of essences. The high-grade fire crystal stone, the high-grade 5-colored divine stone, and the wood crystal stone were all of high grade. Now, it was like garbage piled up all over the place. It was so dazzling that Lee Tianyun couldn't even keep his eyes open. He had never seen such a bold and unrestrained thing. Those treasures were piled up everywhere, as if they were garbage. Actually, they weren't being thrown away. They were being placed here casually, and when they wanted to use them, giant beasts would move them in. To put it bluntly, the giant beasts carrying the spiritual herbs here were just walking around. They couldn't enter the real area inside. The crystals were piled up randomly, but the spiritual herbs would be brought in immediately. They wouldn't be placed outside. If they were placed outside, their effects would be affected. So, they would be moved inside quickly. As for the crystals, they were piled up randomly. Only some precious materials and relatively stable ores were piled up there. They were piled up like a mountain. It was like they were using this place as a warehouse, piling them up randomly. No wonder the giant beasts weren't allowed to come in casually. What if some giant beasts swallowed the crystals crazily? When some giant beasts went crazy, they wouldn't listen to any orders. By the time they were stopped, they would have swallowed quite a lot. That would be a huge loss. How casual. But there aren't any buildings here, so it's normal to pile them up randomly. Lee Tianyun looked up. Actually, there was a huge cave behind the city walls. They all lived in the mountain range, which had a unique environment. The surrounding energy was very rich, which was good for improving their cultivation. When I leave, I will definitely take these things with me. I can't let them go. Tianyun was envious when he saw the pile of materials. These could be used to forge weapons or use for cultivation. They were of limited use to him, but to his subordinates, they were good stuff. Some of them could be used to strengthen his own equipment. They were still very useful. He just took a casual look and queued up to place the spiritual herbs. After he finished placing the spiritual herbs, he could basically get lost. Everything was so simple, and he didn't even get paid. It seemed very heartless, but in fact he had already given them rewards. Basically, he could eat the spiritual herbs freely. He just had to remember to pay for the excess. There weren't many giant beasts in the first place. They were much fewer than the cultivators. They basically couldn't finish the spiritual herbs here, so they had to pay for the excess. When they paid a certain amount, they would focus on training them, such as transforming. You idiots, put the spiritual herbs properly. Don't put them in such a mess. I've told you so many times, but you still don't understand. You're so stupid. At this moment, a cultivator in front of them kept cursing the giant beasts. Lee Tianyun looked over. He didn't even need the appraisal eye to know who that guy was. He was a transformed dragon ant beast in the late stage of Star Venerable Realm. He was a talented giant beast. After training, he would transform into a state with high spiritual intelligence. It didn't mean that one had to be a grand Star Venerable to transform. Of course, that was impossible. Although there were spiritual herbs everywhere in the entire giant divine beast realm, there were only 5 grand Star Venerables. Including the giant divine beasts, There were only 5. 2 of them had been killed by him, so there were 3 left. Grand Star Venerables weren't cabbages. They didn't have Star Dharma forms, so they didn't need to increase their level. However, they needed a lot of energy to break through. After being scolded, the giant beasts could only shake their heads and go back to placing the spiritual herbs obediently. Some of the more stupid ones just shook their heads and threw the spiritual herbs far away, almost over the city walls. This made the dragon and beasts curse again. But how could those giant beasts understand? Chapter 2154. The dragon ant beast was still scolding them, asking them to place the spiritual herbs in the appropriate area. However, there were still many foolish beasts who could not control their strength well and threw the spiritual herbs far away. This made him extremely angry. How stupid! I've told you again and again, but none of you will change. The dragon ant beast glared at them angrily. No matter how he tried to teach them, it was useless. Giant beasts were giant beasts after all. They did not have good control over their own strength, and their intelligence was too low. Soon, it was Yi Tianyun's turn. Then, he tossed the spiritual herb on his head to the side and threw it into the pile of spiritual herbs in front of him. The dragon ant beast was very satisfied because it did a good job. It took another look at Yi Tianyun. You're ugly, but you have good control over your strength. Try again. Yi Tianyun was startled, but he still did as he was told. He tossed the other spiritual herbs to the side, and they landed smoothly on the empty ground. Your control is really not bad. Give me another try. The dragon ant beast gestured again. Tianyun did the same. He easily tossed the spiritual herbs to the empty ground, and they piled up neatly. To him, this was naturally not the slightest bit of difficulty. His control over the giant beast's body was naturally very precise. Not bad. The dragon ant beast's eyes lit up, and it said with a smile, You're considered the most agile among all the foolish giant beasts. Stay here and help me. I just happen to need your help to organize things. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was just about to ask how he could sneak in, but this fellow immediately invited him in. It was really easy. Soon after, Yi Tianyun came to the dragon ant beast's side and nodded slightly, indicating that he was willing. The other giant beasts roared, indicating that they also wanted to join. You fools still want to join? If you're at the same level as him, I'll keep you here. The dragon ant beast snorted and gestured for them to perform. The rest of the beasts did the same, but none of them were as accurate as Yi Tianyun's. They were still slightly off the mark. As long as it wasn't too far off, he would be happy. Most of it was thrown to another location. How stupid! You still want to join us? If I really let you guys join, you'll just be causing trouble for me. The dragon ant beast waved its hand in exasperation. It had thought that it would be able to recruit a few more people, but who knew that it would still be a bunch of idiots? After trying a few more, the standard was the same. None of them were as accurate as Yi Tianyun. Go and help me move those crystals in. Don't break them, understand? If you break it, I'll kill you and eat you. The dragon ant beast began to order Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun immediately went to work, moving the piles of crystal stones. His huge body could carry a large pile at once. Since the Ultralisks did not have any inner worlds, they basically had to carry everything on their backs. Metamorphosing Ultralisks also did not have any inner worlds, but they could use treasures and the like. Hence, moving things was relatively easy. However, they were too lazy to move, so they just let their subordinates help them. The dragon ant beast did not want to do it here, but there was no other way. If there was no one to watch over them, it would definitely be a mess. Yi Tianyun controlled the Ultralisk's puppet and began to move the crystal stones. Then he went directly into the cave. There was a corresponding storage area in the cave. They were just piled up a little outside the cave, not really piled up there all the time. Now, he could easily walk inside. However, the situation inside was not that there were no guards. There were also many Ultralisks acting as guards, and they were guarding the place tightly. They were not afraid of enemies barging in, but they were completely guarding against their own people. Previously, there had been some ultralisks who could not control their beastly nature. They had charged in and devoured the spirit herbs and crystal stones wantonly, resulting in huge losses. They did not think that cultivators would barge in. They were afraid that they would be easily dealt with before they could even get close. Soon, Tianyun found the area where the crystal stones were stored. There were ultralisks guarding the area outside. When they saw Tianyun carrying a pile of crystal stones in, they did not stop him. After all, there were many ultralisks who carried crystal stones in like him. There were still many ultralisks who mainly did this work. After Tianyun moved the things in, he saw piles of crystal stones that were like mountains. There were countless of them, and they were really extravagant. Not bad. Tianyun's eyes lit up. He controlled the ultralisk's puppet to pour the crystal stones on the ground bit by bit. At the same time, he quickly rushed out of the ultralisk's puppet's body, concealed his aura, and collected the crystal stones in a frenzy. In less than a short while, more than half of the crystal stones had been collected, and only a small portion was left here. Basically, from the entrance, it looked like a mountain of crystal stones. In reality, most of the mountain had been hollowed out, and only a layer of skin was left on the outside. Visually, there was nothing missing. After collecting, Tianyun quickly returned to the ultralisk's puppet's body. Everything was silent. At this moment, the ultralisk's puppet finished pouring out the crystal stones and continued to move them. There were many things that he needed to move. Not only the crystal stones, but also the spirit herbs. The dragon ant beast did not suspect anything. Although the ultralisks were inflexible and had low spiritual intelligence, they were absolutely obedient to their superiors. They would follow whatever orders were given. This was also why the dragon ant beast would find some ultralisks with better spiritual intelligence to be its movers. Little did they know that the dragon ant beast had invited a wolf into its house. Moreover, a ferocious wolf would not even know that it had moved everything away. Not bad. The harvest this time is shocking. There's even the 10,000 emperor flower. Previously, Tianyun had thought that there was no 10,000 emperor flower. Now that he had found the 10,000 emperor flower, he had even found other good rare spirit herbs. He had to admit that he had made the right decision to come this time. Even if he turned around and left now, he would have profited greatly. Although he did not seriously injure the ultralisks, at least he had made a huge profit. To put it bluntly, without so many resources, the speed at which the ultralisks increased their cultivation would be much slower. He could foresee the expressions of the ultralisks when they saw that more than half of everything had been moved away. How furious would that be? After moving everything away, Tianyun did not continue to wait outside. Instead, he walked straight inside. This time, he was no longer worried about being discovered. Even if he was discovered, he would escape immediately. There was no point in staying here. After moving so many things, he did not come here in vain. Hence, he could go in and investigate the situation. Chapter 2155. Tianyun did not directly control the giant beast puppet to go in. Instead, he let the giant beast puppet go out while he sneaked in. No matter what, the giant beast puppet was a good spy and could be buried here as his own informant. He directly came out with his main body, then concealed his figure and snuck in. With the charm beast's memories, he treated this place like his home, so he did not need the giant beast puppet to bring him in. Moreover, he only needed to sneak in, so the rest was much easier. There might be a few more informants outside, so it would not be easy to sneak in. It would be much easier after he came in. Although the security inside would be even tighter, he did not care about the final outcome now. If he was discovered, he would just have to escape. In any case, he had already made a huge profit here, so it was not a loss. When he escaped, he could also kill a large number of giant beasts, so it was not a loss either. His ultimate goal in coming in was not to kill the giant divine beasts, but to make a killing and cause some damage. With his perfect concealment ability, he easily snuck in without much effort. There were many giant beasts on the way, but their cultivation levels were relatively low, so he could easily sneak past them. When he went deeper, he entered a completely different area. The decorations here were quite exquisite, similar to the area where ordinary cultivators stayed, except that the buildings were built with more precious crystals. Rooms were built here, and at a glance, it was a very luxurious type. It was obvious that there were giant beasts coming and going here, but these giant beasts had all undergone metamorphosis, so they looked no different from cultivators on the outside. Once they erupted, they could return to their giant beast form, and their power was astonishing. This could be considered a rather perfect evolution, much better than their previous state. The main thing was that there had been a lot of evolution in their spiritual wisdom. This allowed them to start cultivating martial arts, star runes, and the like. This was definitely not good news for cultivators. The giant beasts were originally enemies. If they were very friendly, it would not be a problem. However, they were extremely savage, so it was different. There are really a lot of giant beasts that have undergone metamorphosis. Although Yi Tianyun already knew everything from the charm beast's memories, he couldn't help but feel shocked when he saw the situation in front of him. There were many giant beasts here, at least several hundred of them. The weakest among them was a Star Lord, while most of them were Star Venerables. This number was truly shocking. These metamorphosed giant beasts were all important targets for nurturing. In the future, they would be the focus of the expansion of the region. At least from the looks of it, they could easily sneak into a cultivator tribe. As long as they did not unleash too much power, basically no one would know that their true form was a giant beast. This was undoubtedly a sign of danger. Once they got out, it would definitely be very dangerous. Yi Tianyun stealthily walked in. When he passed by some rooms, he was assaulted by the smell of blood. He frowned and turned to look into the room. What he saw was a metamorphosed giant beast gnawing on a cultivator. The cultivator could no longer move. He could only let the giant beast gnaw on him and swallow his essence blood. It's the Heavenly Tiger Tribe. Yi Tianyun's heart sank. He sneaked in quietly. The giant beast didn't even notice him coming in. Before the giant beast noticed Yi Tianyun, it was cut in two with his knife. A Star Venerable giant beast died just like that. Its cultivation was much lower than Yi Tianyun's, so it didn't even have a chance to notice him. The Heavenly Tiger Tribe member, who was desperate and angry, was left alone. He was petrified when he saw the giant beast being cut in two. He didn't know what had happened. A second ago, the giant beast was still gnawing on its own flesh. In the next second, it was cut in two. What he saw was Yi Tianyun's ice-cold face. "It's all right." Yi Tianyun waved his hand, and a healing energy engulfed the Heavenly Tiger Tribe member. After a while, the Heavenly Tiger Tribe member could at least move and speak, even if he didn't recover completely. "Thank you for saving me." The Heavenly Tiger Tribe member was extremely grateful. Then he looked at Yi Tianyun and said with confusion, "By the way, what's going on? Has the giant divine beast's territory been breached?" He knew he was in the territory. There was only one possibility that someone had come to save him. The giant divine beast's territory had been breached. This was undoubtedly good news for him. "No, I snuck in," Tianyun said, shaking his head. "You don't have to say anything else. Just hide in my space. I'll check along the way and see if anyone can save you." The Heavenly Tiger Tribe member was struck dumb, but he didn't say anything else. He nodded and agreed. Soon Yi Tianyun took him into the living creature space. Then he turned around and left stealthily. His expression became solemn. He had some memories about this from the charm beast's memory, but there were only a few of them. Now, he was witnessing them gnawing on the clansmen of the various tribes. It was a little irritating. The strong preyed on the weak. He acknowledged this point. But very regrettably, he was in the cultivator camp. Hence, he stood on the cultivator's side. Who knew when his friends and family would be gnawed on by giant beasts one day? Soon after, he sneaked all the way over. Along the way, he really saw many houses with giant beasts gnawing on the clansmen of various tribes. They were absorbing the blood essence inside to replenish their own needs, so that they could transform even more perfectly. He harvested all these kinds of situations, basically killing his way over. Under such circumstances, he already lost count of how many giant beasts he had killed. It could be said that if he was discovered by the giant divine beast, it would really be enraged. It had painstakingly nurtured successfully to transform, but it was killed by him. How could it not be enraged? Yi Tianyun was very calm, not worried in the slightest that he would be discovered. He knew that the location of the giant divine beast was not in this area, but in a very deep area. As long as the situation was not very serious and affected the giant divine beast would not detect it, let alone go and detect it casually. Very soon, many giant beasts in this area were harvested by him. Some that were not here were not harvested. Here, he saved many clansmen of the tribes and kept them into the living creature space. At the same time, he also found the area where the clansmen of the tribes were imprisoned and rescued them. These clansmen all had relatively more outstanding and rich bloodlines. It was no wonder that they were captured. It's about time. It's time to head to the giant divine beasts area. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. There was nothing else he could do for the time being. Chapter 2156. Yi Tianyun had basically saved all the tribesmen. If there were any left, they were either dead or brought to some corner. He had only saved them in passing, but it had to be said that there were quite a lot of people. Adding them up, there were hundreds of them. These people had rather rich talents and bloodlines, and the giant beasts chose them to capture. They only wanted the ones with rich bloodlines, regardless of cultivation. Hence, there were people as young as newborns and as old as thousands of years old. They all had relatively high bloodlines which were easy for them to absorb. They had gone to great lengths to capture them, and now they were all taken away by Yi Tianyun. If the giant divine beast knew of the situation, it would fly into a rage. However, what angered the giant divine beast the most was definitely that many of its subordinates had been killed. That was the most infuriating thing. He could foresee the true wrath of this giant divine beast. It probably wished that it could swallow him alive. Now, he planned to do something that would make the giant divine beast even more furious, and that was to launch a ruthless sneak attack on it. If the sneak attack succeeded, the giant divine beast would either be seriously injured or dead. If the sneak attack failed, the giant divine beast would also suffer a huge loss. No matter what, it would be the most profitable. Unless the giant divine beast killed him, that would be another story. The problem was that possible? Yi Tianyun had made a foolproof plan. With the super teleportation divine stone in hand, he could ignore all restrictions. Who could stop him? With his perfect infiltration, Yi Tianyun quickly reached the deeper interior. After passing through layers of guards, he finally arrived at the area where the giant divine beast was, Giant God Palace. The environment of Giant God Palace did not seem special in terms of structure. The biggest difference was that the vitality was very rich. The location chosen was quite good. As far as the eye could see, this road was filled with spirit herbs. This was the most peculiar part. Both sides of the road were filled with spirit herbs, and there was even a stream that continuously emerged from the ground to water these spirit herbs. What a grand gesture! The giant divine beasts really know how to enjoy themselves. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He felt that the area that the giant divine beasts had set up for himself was truly top-notch. So many spirit herbs were spread out here. At a casual glance, they were all heavenly star level 3 and above. This was the benefit of abundant resources. One could be truly capricious. If it was any other palace, they wouldn't dare to do this. They didn't even have enough food for themselves, so where would they find the extra food to fill up the entire palace? How could Yi Tianyun let go of the spirit herbs along the way? He easily harvested them, leaving not a single blade of grass behind. All of them were swept away by him, and not a single one was left. He was just that simple and crude. If there was something, he would take it. He would never let go of any benefits. As he swept his way, he soon arrived at the innermost gate. There were no guards in front of this gate, and it was tightly shut. If he wanted to enter, he needed to know the corresponding method. Coincidentally, Tianyun knew this method. He had obtained the memories of the charm beast, so it was easy for him to enter. Immediately after, he quickly patted it continuously, and the star patterns on it began to flicker, followed by a rumbling sound, and the door slowly opened. As soon as he opened a crack, Lee Tianyun immediately felt a rich and explosive life force pouring out of it, making him feel comfortable all over. After opening an opening that was big enough for him to enter, he quickly went in sideways and closed the door again. At this moment, what came into view was a boundless field of spirit herbs. Many familiar spirit herbs were planted on the side. For example, the golden god grass or the 10,000 emperor flower could be found everywhere. If news of this spread, it would definitely cause a riot among the cultivators of scarlet moon star or wild dragon star. This was equivalent to a treasure trove of spirit herbs. There were so many spirit herbs, and many of them could be used to increase the level of one's star dharma powers. How could this not be attractive? However, as soon as he entered, he was immediately stared at by two pairs of eyes. "You killed so many of my subordinates in my territory, and you still dare to come in?" A deep voice was mixed with anger. The one who spoke was none other than the giant divine beast. These words meant that he knew that Lee Tianyun was causing trouble outside, and he was very clear about it. Lee Tianyun was not surprised. He waved his hand without hesitation, and the surrounding spirit herbs began to be absorbed into his star ring. Even though he was discovered, he did not let go of the spirit herbs around him. These were rather precious spirit herbs. Perhaps they were useless to him, but at least they were very useful to his people. Even if they were useless, why not take them? He was not nervous at all about the giant divine beast's words. If he was found out, so be it. This was the giant divine beast's territory, so it was normal for him to be found out. The important thing was that the giant divine beast still did not go out to kill him. This meant that the giant divine beast could not move around casually and could only stay in this area. He took a few more steps forward, and the situation in front of him immediately came into view. A middle-aged man was sitting on a lotus platform, and traces of life force were constantly entering his body. This life force was constantly making flesh grow on the surface of his body, and it looked like he was reconstructing his body. He was the giant divine beast, a giant divine beast that was undergoing metamorphosis. He was using the surging life force around him to rapidly reconstruct his body. Although the life force was very dense, the speed of reconstruction was still very slow, like a snail. There were so many spirit herbs around him, and they were purely providing him with life force. Regardless of whether it was the spirit herbs placed outside or the spirit herbs placed here, they were all used to reconstruct his body. It had to be said that this was really an extravagant behavior. Some of the effects of spirit herbs were not used to reconstruct the body, and they did not even have any healing effects. For example, the golden divine grass and the 9 revolutions star grass were not used to reconstruct the body, and he was just directly using the life force contained within them. This was undoubtedly the most disadvantageous. It was like using spirit herbs not for cultivation or healing, but purely for the feeling of having a full meal. In this way, he could not even unleash his own value. To the giant divine beast, this was the best effect. As long as it could provide help to him, it was the best spirit herb. Now, there was only a thin layer of flesh on his body, and most of it had not taken shape. No wonder he could not go out and intercept him. In this state, a slight movement would affect his recovery speed, and it might even cause damage to his body. Now, even if Lee Tianyun came in front of him, he did not make a move immediately. This showed the problem. However, the giant divine beast was even more shocked in its heart. Although it could not be seen on the surface, it was very shocked in its heart. Only a few people knew how to open this door, so how could Lee Tianyun open it? Now was a critical period for him, and he did not want to make a move. Chapter 2157. The giant divine beast looked very weak. Its physical body was not even complete. However, Lee Tianyun did not dare to act rashly. Even so, he was not absolutely confident that he could kill the giant divine beast. The data displayed by the appraisal eye was the best proof. Giant divine beast, late star venerable cultivation base. Currently reconstructing its physical body for the 3rd time. Its body is close to perfection. Its bones and physical body have reached the peak of the galaxy grade. Half of its physical body has not been reconstructed yet. However, it can still unleash a powerful force. Its grade is extremely dangerous. It is recommended to leave. The data of the appraisal eye had never been wrong. This meant that the giant divine beast was very powerful. Even if it looked like it only had a layer of skin, it would be extremely fierce when it attacked. Of course, the price that the giant divine beast had to pay would not be too low. For example, the reconstructing speed would be much slower, or it would have to start all over again. Otherwise, the giant divine beast would have gone berserk long ago. Why would it sit there and watch him like a fool? I don't know how you came in, but do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? The giant divine beast said coldly, I'll give you a choice now. Get out of here. Otherwise, I'll let you know what death feels like. The giant divine beast's eyes emitted a ray of light that penetrated towards Tianyun. He slapped the ray of light away with a backhand. With a boom, a shallow pit was blasted into the wall. It seemed that the structure here was very sturdy and could not be destroyed so easily. Don't be so agitated. I'm just here to take a look. Tianyun shrugged. Don't be agitated and don't get angry. I'm just strolling around for a while and picking some spirit herbs. That's not too much, right? I'll say it one last time. Either die or get lost. The giant divine beast's eyes were cold. Its surroundings started to shake. It seemed like it was really going to attack. I already said, don't be agitated. You don't want to waste so much time reconstructing your physical body, right? Even if you kill me, I believe that you'll have to reconstruct your physical body again. By then, the time and the price won't be low. Most importantly, it might even affect the transformation of your current body. Tianyun had a look of persuasion on his face. He looked at him with concern and said, I really didn't mean anything else. I just happened to come in for a stroll. Who knew you were here? You're a dignified gigantic divine beast. I can provoke anyone but you, right? The giant divine beast's eyes were cold. After weighing the pros and cons, it said coldly, Scram after plucking the spirit herbs. Thank you. I'll leave once I'm done harvesting. Tianyun smiled faintly and quickly began to harvest the spirit herbs. His methods were quite ruthless. How was he harvesting spirit herbs? He harvested wave after wave of spirit herbs. No matter how dense the spirit herbs were, it was as if he was harvesting chives. He easily took away a large amount of spirit herbs. After the scroll was taken away, the life force released by the giant divine beast's lotus platform immediately weakened. It was obvious that Tianyun's harvesting of spirit herbs greatly affected the speed at which his body was reconstructed. Enough! The giant divine beast was enraged. He thought that Tianyun was only harvesting a few. Who knew that just as he agreed, Tianyun swept away a large piece like grass. How could he not be enraged? I only took away a small piece. Do you have to be so distressed? Don't you have a lot here? Really too stingy. If you made a move on me, do you think this small piece could make up for it? Tianyun said with assurance. The giant divine beast stared at him and did not answer his words. However, it looked like it tacitly agreed. Tianyun similarly did not stand on ceremony. He swept over again and swept away a large piece of spirit herbs. He was much more ferocious than before. That's enough. The giant divine beast gritted his teeth and roared angrily. A powerful sound wave swept over here. However, it was useless against Tianyun. The effect was negligible. What do you mean by that? It's far from enough. Don't be so stingy. You're a dignified giant divine beast. You control a large area of giant divine beasts. When the time comes, can't you find me? Tianyun continued harvesting. This time, he did not even stop. The giant divine beast was about to explode. He was a dignified giant divine beast. When had he ever suffered such vexation? He watched helplessly as the enemy not only killed many of his subordinates, but also swaggered in front of him to harvest spirit herbs. This kind of humiliation was definitely something he had never endured before. He still did not make a move. He thought that if he made a move, it might not be easy to settle things. He could only hope that Tianyun would quickly finish harvesting and leave. However, he endured again and again. Tianyun's actions became more and more excessive. Almost half of the spirit herbs in the surroundings were swept away. The life force released by the lotus platform he sat on was rapidly reduced by half. Almost half. Almost half of the spirit herbs here have been swept away by you. The giant divine beast roared angrily again. He almost made a move. Not even half. I'll leave after taking half. I'll really leave after taking half. Tianyun added and continued harvesting. The giant divine beast's eyes were almost spewing flames. He could only forcefully endure. Half it was then. He could only endure to this extent. Right now, he wanted to quickly reconstruct his physical body and capture Tianyun. Not only would he take back those spirit herbs, but he also wanted to torture Tianyun ruthlessly. He had thought about this from the beginning. He could not tolerate someone killing his subordinates and harvesting so many spirit herbs, and then letting him live. This was impossible. He had planned to torture Tianyun ruthlessly from the beginning and take back everything with interest. Soon, Tianyun is about to harvest half of the herbs. Half of the herbs that were originally dense here have become bare, leaving only some water flowing in the stream. However, he did not stop when he was halfway through. He continued harvesting crazily. His speed suddenly increased, and his harvesting speed was much faster than before. This time, Tianyun was truly harvesting with all his might. He was just testing the giant divine beast's patience earlier. There was no need for that now. He knew that the giant divine beast's limit was probably half. If he continued, it would affect too much. It was not worth it at all. Therefore, when the giant divine beast thought that everything was over, he suddenly increased his speed and harvested a small portion of the spirit herbs. He then continued harvesting more. The giant divine beast could not react in time. It did not seem to think that Tianyun would really dare to continue harvesting. You're courting death. The giant divine beast was completely enraged. It slammed its hand on the ground and bounced toward Tianyun. However, it did not use its full strength. It used a strength that would not affect its own condition. Tianyun ignored the giant god beast and continued to harvest the giant god beast. When the giant god beast's palm was about to hit him, Tianyun quickly backhanded the long moon azure dragon saber's domineering dragon aura swept towards the giant god beast. After repelling them, he quickly reaped the harvest, not daring to stop for even a moment. Chapter 2158. Tianyun had naturally focused on spirit herbs from the start. Not only could he collect a batch of spirit herbs, but he could also suppress the giant divine beast. He knew it was not easy to fight the giant divine beast, but if he took away all the spirit herbs, the giant divine beast would need a long time to recover. This would buy him a lot of time. He did not know this was a horse region, but it was a good choice to cause some trouble for the giant divine beast. Stop! The giant divine beast roared angrily and swung its palm over. It still did not use its full strength. It simply used a little of its own strength. It was just a little stronger than before. It did not want to hurt its body, as it would be very troublesome to recover. As Tianyun said, if it messed around, it would have to start all over again. It would take a long time to rebuild its body. It could not tolerate this. It had already gone crazy staying here. It had always wanted to go out, but it could not. Now that it had to start all over again, it was as furious as it could get. Tianyun swung his saber to block the giant divine beast's palm. Boom! Tianyun was sent flying. He only spun a little in the air and continued to harvest the spirit herbs in front of him with the momentum. No matter how the giant divine beast attacked, he simply blocked it. He did not plan to fight it head-on. It was not necessary. His goal was to collect all the spirit herbs here. It did not matter what happened after he harvested them all. Damn it, the giant divine beast said furiously, you are seeking your own death. The giant divine beast was really furious. If it did not explode, all its spirit herbs would be harvested. How would it recover then? The next moment, the giant divine beast's body expanded rapidly. The power in its body burst out. The peak late-stage grand star venerate power gushed out from its bones. The entire skeleton contained the power of a wild beast. It even flickered with a golden light. A huge, ferocious beast appeared behind it. Upon closer inspection, it was a Jade Soul Beast. The Jade Soul Beast was a special kind of giant beast. Its entire body was made of jade. By devouring jade stones and the like, he could increase his cultivation and strength, and his defense would be even more heaven-defying. This was the true form of the giant divine beast, the Jade Soul Beast. Because it was a Jade Soul Beast, its skeleton was equivalent to being made out of jade. It was a rather sturdy type. Thus, even though only the skeleton was left, its power was still astonishing. Die for me! As the Jade Soul Beast completely erupted, it stretched out its hand and released a celestial river-grade martial art. Jade Soul Palm. A huge jade-like hand appeared in the void and slammed toward Yi Tianyun. The jade-like hand also had the ability to extract souls. Yi Tianyun was stunned. Yi Tianyun was stunned. Apart from being able to devour jade stones, the Jade Soul Beast could also devour souls. After devouring souls, he could strengthen his own soul and even absorb memories from them. Perhaps it wasn't as heaven-defying as Yi Tianyun's super soul search, but at least it was much stronger than an ordinary soul search. No wonder it could become a giant divine beast. With just these two abilities, it was enough to stand above the rest of the beasts. It's really powerful. Let's give it a try. Tianyun laughed loudly and quickly burst out all his power. Almost all the moves that he could use to break out of his body burst out. For example, the Starlight Deity Blessing, as well as various other blessings, all of them came crashing down. The Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber whistled and shone brightly. It directly rushed up and collided with the Jade Soul Palm. Boom! A violent explosion erupted in the palace. The powerful Jade Soul Palm continued to press down on Yi Tianyun. The saber light released by the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber was broken. Even the body of the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber was bent exaggeratedly, as if it would break at any time. The hand that was gripping the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber tightly was torn apart by the pressure, revealing the bones of his hand. Yi Tianyun was completely crushed. Whether it was strength or power, he was completely crushed. He still lacked a lot of blessings, and that was the blessings of devouring star power. Without an expert beside him to devour, he really couldn't devour star power from other places to strengthen himself. Of course, he could let the tribesmen in the living space come out and fiercely strengthen him with star power. But he wouldn't do that. If he did that, it would undoubtedly be equivalent to sending those people to their deaths, and they might not even be able to defeat the giant divine beast. This was the best proof. Yi Tianyun quickly retreated, but he still couldn't escape the suppression of the Jade Soul Palm. He couldn't even escape. You still want to escape under my attack? The giant divine beast's eyes were full of disdain. As long as he attacked, he would definitely be able to suppress the enemy. But the corresponding price was that a lot of the flesh that had originally recovered was now shattered by the power, leaving only a body of bones. If he wanted to erupt with a powerful force, there would definitely be a certain amount of counterforce. As a result, the originally not very stable flesh was shattered. It didn't cause any harm to him, but the flesh that he had spent a lot of time to recover was wasted just like that. Not only was it a waste of time, but it also wasted a lot of resources. In order to be able to stop Yi Tianyun, he could only risk his life. Of course you still want to escape. A devilish smile appeared on Yi Tianyun's face. He reached out and gently grasped it. I still have one last gift for you. Enjoy it. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. The target that the Jade Soul Palm had locked onto disappeared into thin air. Everything happened so suddenly. The giant divine beast was stunned. Yi Tianyun, who was just in front of him just now, disappeared just like that? More importantly, he still didn't know what Yi Tianyun meant. Just as he came to his senses, a terrifying force suddenly exploded in the surroundings, sweeping out in all directions. This force was released from the array on the ground and swept towards the unharvested elixirs at the side. Many of them were destroyed by this force and turned into a pile of flying ashes. This was a large array that Yi Tianyun had secretly set up when he was harvesting elixirs previously. Perhaps it couldn't cause any harm to the giant divine beast, but at least it could destroy the elixirs that he hadn't harvested. If he wanted to do it, he had to do it to the extreme. If Yi Tianyun couldn't harvest it, he couldn't leave it for the giant divine beast to use. Another explosion sounded, and the entire temple shook. Soon, a figure rushed out and roared, "I'm going to kill you." The giant divine beast went crazy. All the elixirs had been destroyed. If he wanted to set up this kind of environment again, the price he had to pay was too high. He didn't continue to stay here. Instead, he directly rushed out of the temple and chased in all directions. Chapter 2159. Yi Tianyun directly used the super teleportation divine stone and instantly disappeared in the same place, and directly returned to the area where Light Moon Tribe was located. It was worthy of being called the super teleport stone. Even when facing such a strong force, it could easily escape without any hesitation. However, such a treasure could not be bought in bulk. Even the system store did not have the super teleport stone. It was a pity. He could only wait for some missions to obtain the corresponding treasures. Or perhaps he could kill some experts and obtain the corresponding treasures. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the Shallow Moon Tribe. He had already prepared everything. The Ghana Patriarch and the others were already prepared to escape. Everyone gathered here. They didn't feel the slightest bit of reluctance to leave. They did not want to leave, but facing the giant divine beast, they could not wait to leave. Anyway, they just needed to escape with their small worlds. They could take whatever they wanted with them. They had had enough of living here. No matter how reluctant they were, they had to leave. Yi Tianyun's sudden appearance caused them to surround him. Without waiting for them to get close, Yi Tianyun used the divine jade token to open a passage, and he immediately drilled into it. The passage was not far, so he rushed to the end and exited the passage. Soon he returned to the previous area. Although it was not the previous area, it was enough to return to the desolate dragon star. After he returned, the passage closed. He did not stop and immediately used the super teleport stone to mark the area. Then he teleported to the giant divine beast territory. He did it in one go, without any hesitation. When the Ghana chief and the others saw Yi Tianyun leave, they were dumbfounded. Why did Yi Tianyun suddenly leave? Did something happen? Didn't he say that he would bring them away? Before they could think further, Yi Tianyun's figure appeared in front of them. They were stunned. What was going on? "Hurry up and enter my internal space." Yi Tianyun waved his hand and a space-time door appeared in front of them. The Ghana chief and the others did not hesitate and rushed in. They didn't know what was going on, but they knew after listening to Yi Tianyun's orders. Just as he took them into the space within his body, there was a violent vibration above him. In the blink of an eye, the area above his head was ripped open. The skeletal body of the giant divine beast appeared in front of Yi Tianyun just like that. It had only been a short while, and the giant god beast was already here. It was really too fast. It could only be said that this was his territory and he could easily come here. Especially since he knew where the Light Moon Tribe was hiding, he could easily kill his way here. Even if Yi Tianyun wasn't here, he would still use this place as an example. He recognized that the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber was definitely in the Shallow Moon Tribe's territory, so he rushed over first. As expected, as soon as he arrived, he saw Yi Tianyun. "You're really hiding here. Get over here." The colossal divine beast stretched out its hand, and a powerful suction force enveloped the surroundings. The surrounding rocks and trees were instantly sucked in and turned into dust. This kind of suction force was really shocking. Yi Tianyun had just recovered from his injuries, which was enough to show how fast this colossal divine beast was. This time, the area covered by the giant divine beast was much wider. It had even chosen to lock down time and space, locking down the entire area. It would be extremely difficult to use any treasures to escape. However, Yi Tianyun's treasures were not included. "I'll deal with you after some time." Yi Tianyun grinned, and then disappeared on the spot. No one knew where he went. When the colossal divine beast saw Yi Tianyun disappear just like that, its soul jumped. Its powerful soul had already locked onto Yi Tianyun from all directions. No matter how he moved or how he escaped, it would be able to instantly know and take action. However, Yi Tianyun's escape came without any warning, and it could not detect anything at all. He just disappeared in front of its eyes just like that. This made the colossal divine beast deeply doubt its own detection. Its soul lock was so powerful, but it still could not detect anything? He escaped again. What treasure did he use to escape? The colossal divine beast was about to go crazy. It ran wildly in all directions and began to search for traces of other tribes. But even after flipping all over the place, they still couldn't find any trace of the tribe. Even a single stone had been moved away, let alone the tribe members. As for Yi Tianyun's figure, it was even more difficult to find him. This made the colossal divine beast completely crazy. It had paid such a huge price and even risked damage to its body to chase after Yi Tianyun, but it still could not find him. Not to mention Yi Tianyun, even the other cultivators could not be found. They had disappeared from the colossal divine beast's territory just like that. I will definitely find you and eat you. The colossal divine beast roared at the sky. Its body was only left with bones and the soul in its head. In this state, it needed a long time to recover before it could reconstruct its body. In its current state, it probably could not even use its peak strength. It did not know how long it would take for it to recover. By the time it recovered, Yi Tianyun would probably be back to find it. How could Yi Tianyun let go of such a fat sheep? Especially if it was an opposing faction, he would not let it go. On the other side, Yi Tianyun quickly returned to the desolate dragon planet and easily escaped back. However, in this way, he had used up 3 chances. But it was still worth it to bring back so many loyal subordinates. When he thought about the power he controlled, there were more and more experts. It would not take long for him to dominate a region. At least for now, he was invincible in this region. As long as the powerful Great Star Venerables did not come out, his faction would be invincible on the desolate dragon planet. I just came back and there are already a few flies. How troublesome. As soon as Yi Tianyun returned, he received a message from the informant he had placed in the ancestral land. It seemed that some family from the Scarlet Moon planet had come over and wanted to take his faction for their own use. They wanted to make it easier for them to control a region. Most importantly, that family was pressuring them, saying that they had many experts and could easily destroy the Heavenly Cloud ancestral land. It seems that the families of the Scarlet Moon planet are really arrogant. I haven't even gone to settle the score with them, but other small families have come to make trouble. It seems that if I don't go out and make trouble, I won't know what I am capable of. Yi Tianyun hadn't broken through to the Great Star Venerable realm before, but now that he had, even if the Mu clan sent someone to deal with him, he wouldn't be afraid anymore. Chapter 2160. You should think about it. If you join our Lu family, we will surely provide you with more resources. It's much better than what you have right now. How many Star Venerables do you have in your faction? According to my investigation, you only have 1 Star Venerable, Heavenly Cloud. A Star Venerable is nothing on planet Crimson Moon. As long as you join us, we will soon have a 2nd Star Venerable, let alone a single one. Our resources are beyond your imagination. 5 experts were standing in front of Shi Shuayun and the others. 3 of them were Star Venerables, while the other 2 were Star Venerables. It had to be said that they had sent a strong lineup, which was much stronger than the Heavenly Cloud ancestral land. Yi Tianyun had roped in many factions, but most of them were Star Venerables, and there were no Star Venerables. This was indeed a little shabby, but in this area, it was indeed enough to show disdain for all heroes. The Heavenly Cloud ancestral land's situation was good, which was why they were targeted by the families. They saw that there was potential here, so they came to find a faction to be their puppet, which could help them do many things. No need. We plan to control it ourselves, and we don't want to join any family. Please go back. Shi Shuayun indicated that they could leave. It was a joke to ask them to join these factions. They didn't want to join any faction, as it would put them in a passive position. Especially since these families had come to rope them in, they must have asked them to do something, such as something dangerous. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. They had suddenly come and offered them such good conditions. In this world where benefits were the most important, who would believe that they could get it easily without paying a price? Shi Shuiyun and the others didn't want to gamble with their freedom. Moreover, it wasn't necessary. Everything was developing smoothly, and many star venerables would appear in the future. What they needed now was time. They had many star venerables now, and when they slowly broke through to star venerables, their number would increase. We were kind enough to discuss this matter with you, but you rejected us so straightforwardly? Lu Zhixing, who was the leader, frowned. They had a mission, and they were determined to win the people over. They couldn't afford to fail. Now, they had failed after just a few words, which made them very unhappy. Thank you for your kindness. If possible, you can go and find other ancestral lands. They should be willing to join you. Shi Shuiyun said apologetically, we have our own plans. We don't intend to join other forces. Shi Shuiyun didn't want to make a big deal out of this. What should be eased should be eased. Our Lu family has taken a liking to you. Lu Zhixing said coldly, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Be more direct. Do you want to join our Lu family? If you don't join, then don't blame us for being rude. After the negotiation failed, he immediately changed his attitude. This change in attitude was indeed shocking, but it was not strange. Didn't they bring so many people here just to force their way in? Sirs, is there any meaning in doing this? Even if you forcefully rope us in, do you expect us to serve you loyally? Shi Shuiyun was also infuriated. If it weren't for the fact that they were all star venerables, she would have fought them. We don't need your loyalty. We just need you to do something for us. If you do a good job, you will be rewarded handsomely. It's that simple, Lu Zhixing explained. This matter isn't simple, is it? Shi Shuiyun frowned. Anyone who wasn't a fool would know that the situation wasn't simple. You don't need to know this. When the time comes, we will give you instructions. You just need to complete them. Lu Zhixing said impatiently, don't be long-winded. Let's sign the contract now. It seems that you think you can do whatever you want just because you are stronger. Shi Shuiyun and the others were not weak. Many star venerables stepped forward. Their numbers were quite large. If they really fought, they might not necessarily be at a disadvantage. This was their territory, and they had set up many things. If they really fought, even if they died, their opponents wouldn't have an easy time. That's right. You can do whatever you want just because you are stronger. Lu Zhixing glanced at them coldly and said with a cold smile, do it if you dare. Let's see what kind of moves you have. The gap between the desolate dragon planet and the red moon is not small. Just the small difference is beyond your imagination. Your star Dharma Laksana is still at a low level. Do you really think you can fight us with such weak power? A giant dragon lion appeared behind Lu Zhixing. The star power in the sky quickly covered a large area. He was superior to them both in terms of level and power. The level of star Dharma Laksana on the red moon was much higher than here. There were no records of it here. For the red moon, it was like an aboriginal planet. Their power immediately exerted pressure. Shi Shuiyun and the others turned pale. They had to admit that they were much weaker than them in terms of momentum. Shi Shuiyun and the others clenched their teeth. They wanted to resist. What? You don't want to admit defeat? If you are so capable, why don't you have more star venerables and great star venerables? Lu Zhixing laughed and said, but that's impossible. How can you have so many experts? Oh, what did you say? A familiar figure appeared in their sight. When Shi Shuiyun and the others saw him, they were delighted. Tianyun, you are back. When Shi Shuiyun saw Yi Tianyun come back, she was relieved. As long as Yi Tianyun was back, she would feel at ease. No matter what she faced, she would be confident. Yes, I am back. Don't worry, Tianyun walked over and held her hand. He patted the back of her hand and comforted her. You are Star Venerable Heavenly Cloud? Lu Zhixing looked at him and said, You are not so good. Didn't you hear what I said? We are doing whatever we want. If you are so capable, why don't you use such strong power to exert pressure on us? If you are not, just sit there and don't talk nonsense. No. I am not as weak as you, Lee Dong-yun patted him and said calmly, let them see what power is. Yes, my lord. At this time, a group of experts walked in one after another. First, it was the Jia family leader, then the Chi Wolf family leader. A series of family leaders and elders walked in. There were at least a dozen star venerables. As for the star venerables, there were dozens of them. They looked even more domineering. After going through the baptism of the giant beasts, they had a murderous aura. They were much stronger than ordinary cultivators. They had survived dangers, so how could the cultivators here compare to them? Chapter 2161. Lu Zhixing and his companions were scared out of their wits when they saw so many star venerables showing up. At first, they didn't think it was a big deal when they saw the first star venerable. They thought Yi Tianyun had only invited a star venerable to help them, which was useless for them. First one, then two. When the second one appeared, they were still surprised. They wondered where the star venerable had come from. Since he could invite 2 star venerables, he must have paid a high price. However, they still didn't think it was a big deal. When the third one appeared, they were shocked. They didn't know Yi Tianyun had paid a high price to invite so many star venerables. Wasn't it a great loss? However, more star venerables showed up. When there were more than a dozen of them, including dozens of star lords, they were completely shocked. Even if they didn't have a grand star venerable, they wouldn't be weaker than a small family on the red moon planet. If a grand star venerable came, it would be a great middle-level family. At first, they didn't think it was a big deal. But by then, their eyes were full of shock. Shi Shuayun and the others were scared when they saw so many star venerables. They didn't know where Yi Tianyun had invited so many star venerables. What force are you from? We are from the Lu family of the red moon planet. You should have heard of us, right? We have grand star venerables in our family. Lu Zhixing's voice was trembling. His previous arrogance was gone. How could he not be nervous when facing so many star venerables? The Ghana tribe's patriarch and the others didn't say anything. They just stared at them as if they were looking at a group of monkeys. Lu Zhixing was annoyed. Why didn't anyone say anything? What force are they from? Yi Tianyun shook his head with a smile. Tell them which force you belong to. We will follow your orders, sir. The Ghana tribe's patriarch and the others all knelt down on one knee. All the star venerables and star lords knelt down on one knee. This scene was really shocking. Lu Zhixing and the others were shocked. So many star venerables and star lords. How could they be from the heavenly cloud ancestral land? They knew that the heavenly cloud ancestral land only had 1 star venerable at most. As for star lords, there were also very few of them. But now it was different. Groups of experts came out, causing their hearts to tremble. Why were there so many experts in the Tianyun ancestral land? What had happened? Could it be that the Tianyun ancestral land had been hiding its strength all along? Shi Shuayun and the rest were stunned. How did Yi Tianyun bring back so many experts in such a short time? So many experts were definitely not something that 1 or 2 ancestral lands could provide. Could it be that Yi Tianyun had conquered many ancestral lands? But they didn't hear any news about which ancestral lands had been conquered. Nothing at all. Heaven Cloud Star Venerable, you're really capable. No wonder the Heavenly Cloud ancestral land refused to join the Lu family. Turning his head to look at Yi Tianyun, Lu Zhixing said angrily, Do you think these star venerables can deal with our Lu family? We have a grand star venerable in the Lu family. A grand star venerable can crush you to death. It doesn't matter how many of you there are. Once our old patriarch comes out, you will definitely die. Lu Zhixing didn't compromise. Instead, he became more and more excited and confident as he spoke. For them, the Grand Star Venerable was their biggest source of confidence. They had a Grand Star Venerable Old Patriarch, which could give the Lu family a good position on the Red Moon planet. Grand Star Venerable? Tianyun smiled. If it were in the past, I would have been afraid. But now, it means nothing to me. What? Did you join another family? Lu Zhixing frowned. Looking at so many star venerables, he immediately thought that Tianyun might have joined another family. Those star venerables must have been sent by other families to support them. Apart from that, he couldn't think of any other reason why so many star venerables had come from. There couldn't be so many star venerables on the desolate dragon planet. So, there was only one possibility. He must have come from a family on the Red Moon planet. Join another family? Tianyun shook his head. He said, "We won't join any family." Because Tianyun took a step forward. The seven-colored Emperor Dragon's shadow appeared behind him. He exerted his Grand Star Venerable's power. The sudden aura directly suppressed Lu Zhixing and the others to their knees. Because I'm a Grand Star Venerable. Why would I be afraid of a Grand Star Venerable from the Lu family? Tianyun said calmly. Lu Zhixing and others turned pale. They had never expected Tianyun to break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm. They knew how difficult it was to break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm. Their elders had paid a great price, but they still hadn't succeeded. But now, Tianyun had broken through to the Grand Star Venerable realm easily. He had only been a Star Venerable before. It seemed they had also learned that Tianyun had just broken through to the Star Venerable realm not long ago. It meant his cultivation was at most in the middle stage of Star Venerable realm. He was not a threat to them at all. But now, a Grand Star Venerable was in front of them. A cultivation that they couldn't catch up to. Grand Star Venerable, how did you break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm? Lu Zhixing and others trembled. Their confidence was shattered. They felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They sobered up completely. Why can't I break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm? Tianyun said indifferently, "By the way, I don't know if your old ancestor will take responsibility for killing you." Lu Zhixing and others trembled. They hurried to kowtow and said, "Sir, please be magnanimous. We know we were wrong. We can pay other prices to save our lives. Please don't do this." They kept kowtowing. They didn't have the dignity of a Star Venerable at all. They chose to beg for mercy to save their lives. They had worked so hard to reach this level. They didn't want to die like this. If Tianyun really killed them, it wouldn't be a problem at all. The Lu family's great ancestor wouldn't hold Tianyun accountable. Tianyun was a Grand Star Venerable. The Lu family's great ancestor wouldn't risk his life to hold Tianyun accountable. Unless Tianyun destroyed the Lu family, he wouldn't risk his life to fight Tianyun. The Lu family's great ancestor had only killed a few Star Venerables. His heart ached, but the Lu family's great ancestor didn't want to be injured. He didn't want to die either. Who knew what would happen if he risked his life? Even if he killed Tianyun and the Lu family's great ancestor was heavily injured, the Lu family wouldn't be any better. Tianyun waved his hand. Lu Zhixing was sucked over. Then he started to search his soul. "Let me see what your memory is first." Chapter 2162. After Tianyun's super soul-searching, Lu Zhixing's memories were all dug out. Lu Zhixing's companions who came with him didn't dare to resist at all, and they didn't blame Tianyun for what he did to them. Against a Grand Star Venerable, no matter how they resisted, it would be meaningless. If this could appease Tianyun, they would be more than willing to do it. Sacrificing one person would mean 4 people could survive. It was a good deal. Bang! Lu Zhixing's head was crushed. The rest of his body was vaporized by Tianyun's power before he fell. Not a single drop of blood was left. Tianyun did it on purpose. He did not want to see blood stain the floor. Great Star Venerate Heavenly Cloud, this is all Lu Zhixing's fault. It has nothing to do with us. We just followed him here. One of them said in horror. Great Star Venerate Heavenly Cloud, this is all Lu Zhixing's fault. It has nothing to do with us. Tianyun flicked his finger. A terrifying power pressed down and killed them easily. He did not bother to say anything to them. It was meaningless. Most importantly, Lu Zhixing's memories had infuriated him. The Lu family is really using my force as cannon fodder. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Tianyun, what's wrong? Shi Shuiyun walked over and asked in confusion. The others all looked over. They did not know what Yi Tianyun meant. It's a little complicated. Generally speaking, the desolate dragon planet is going to change. Yi Tianyun said with a cold look. A divine pavilion is going to appear on the desolate dragon planet. It's called the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion. They want to find the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion as soon as possible. When the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion appears, they will use us as cannon fodder. He knew the Lu family must have a purpose. Otherwise, they would not have recruited them. Now that he checked the situation, there was indeed a problem. The problem was caused by the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion. Previously, he had obtained the key to the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion. It was just that the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion would only appear 80 years later. Only a short period of time had passed. No matter what, more than 70 years had passed. 70 years was a long time for ordinary people, but for cultivators, it was just the blink of an eye. Therefore, the Lu family had already made arrangements long ago. When the time came, they would be able to obtain some treasures from the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion. The treasures in the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion were absolutely astonishing. Any random treasure was at the galaxy grade, and there were even treasures of a higher grade than the galaxy grade. Hence, the families of Scarlet Moon Planet went crazy. Most of them would come over to find a few forces to be their spies. The Lu family was quite fast, and they immediately set their eyes on the heavenly cloud ancestral land. But no matter which family it was all because they wanted to use them as cannon fodder to pave the way for them. After Yi Tianyun explained a little, they all knew what was going on. They did not know what kind of place the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion was, but if the families of Scarlet Moon Planet had come over, it could not be simple. I have heard about the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion. At this moment, Ji Clan Master of the Five-Colored Holy Race stepped forward. Everyone looked at him. That was a long time ago. The Violet Gold Divine Pavilion is a treasury left behind by an extremely powerful Almighty. There are more than 10 million treasures in there. Since the Almighty has already left, the treasury has always been on the desolate dragon planet. But every once in a while, it will appear for many cultivators to fight over the treasures. But the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion is a little strange. It will spit out some treasures for no reason, and the cultivators waiting outside will go in to fight over them. At the same time, they can also go into the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion. But the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion is well protected. It is not easy to get in. If you are not careful, you will die inside. So, the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion is a treasury, but it is also a dangerous place. If you can get a few of the treasures inside, you will be able to increase your power greatly. But this place is basically only for Star Venerables and above. If you are not a Grand Star Venerable, you will not be able to enter the deeper regions. Ji Clan Master knew a lot. Although it was not very detailed, it was at least more than what they knew. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed. No wonder the strong cultivators of the Red Moon Planet were all coming over. Who would not want to try such a tempting treasury? Tianyun, what should we do now? Seeing that Yi Tianyun had returned, Shi Shuiyun naturally let Yi Tianyun make the decision. We don't need to deal with anything, we just need to rest and recharge ourselves. We will enter the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion together, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. It would be a waste if we don't participate in such a good treasure house. This, they all gasped. That was an area where many strong cultivators would go. Yi Tianyun actually wanted to give it a try. However, considering that Yi Tianyun was a Grand Star Venerable, it was normal for him to go. I will make arrangements to find the area where the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion is located. Shi Shuiyun agreed to Yi Tianyun's plan without even thinking. There is no need. The Violet Gold Divine Pavilion will only appear in 70 years. By then we will not have to look for it. We will find it easily. There is no need to waste time. Yi Tianyun said with a smile, we just need to practice. We will take action when the time comes. What we need to prepare now is to make arrangements for the clan masters to live in this area. 70 years, they all exchanged a look. They did not know how Yi Tianyun had calculated it, but they did not ask. No matter what Yi Tianyun says, they will do it. The most important thing was to make arrangements for the people to live there and give them good positions. As clan masters, their management skills were not weak. Letting them participate in this would definitely improve their overall strength. After making arrangements, Yi Tianyun could finally relax. He entered the seclusion room to rest for a while. He had just experienced the battle with the giant divine beast. He had to deal with a lot of things after he came back. It was finally over. He could now properly recover his body and properly absorb the benefits that came with a breakthrough in his cultivation. Besides, he wanted to improve the level of his star dharma phase. So, he had to find a seclusion room to practice. He had picked many spiritual herbs in the palace where the giant divine beast had stayed. Some of them could help him improve the level of his star dharma phase. He would not let go of this opportunity. Chapter 2163. While Yi Tianyun was devouring the spiritual herbs, people from the big clans came to the heavenly cloud ancestral land one after another. Like the Lu family, they wanted the heavenly cloud ancestral land to be their subordinate force. When the purple gold divine pavilion came out, they could use them as cannon fodder. Although they did not say so, they were not fools. They knew what was going on. Nothing happened for no reason. They had come here to make these powers die for them. Needless to say, they were all rejected. At first, those forces were quite overbearing, like the Lu family. However, when the Star Venerables came out, they realized they had made a big mistake. Most of them ran away. They did not dare to be arrogant in front of them. Most importantly, their attitude was not bad. At least, it was better than Lu Zhixing's. They were quite overbearing, but they did not threaten them like Lu Zhixing. If they really did not want to join, they could only choose to leave. Looking at the overall situation, these forces were relatively average, roughly in the middle position. Even though they did not have many strong men, the strong men they had could give them a place. Powerful clans did not need to do that. If they had a large number of strong men, they did not need to threaten some forces to join them. They could just send their disciples there. With the protection of the Grand Star Venerables, they would be much safer. After all, in these areas, their own people were the most trustworthy. If they tried to rope in the forces that joined them temporarily, it would be fatal if they suddenly attacked them. Yi Tianyun did not need to deal with these things. There were so many strong men outside. If he had to go there personally, it would mean that the Grand Star Venerables had come. Therefore, he had been living in peace. He could also devour the spiritual herbs he had obtained in the seclusion room. His Star Dharma idol could also improve, but the speed was quite slow. It was not easy to improve the Star Dharma idol. The spiritual herbs he had obtained could improve the Star Dharma idol, but they were not very effective. It was like the 10,000 Emperor Flower. The 10,000 Emperor Flower was the most effective when it reached level 4. The other spiritual herbs could also be improved to level 4, but they needed a lot of them. Right now, Yi Tianyun was stuck here. There was nothing particularly effective, so he could only improve himself bit by bit. Overall, it was still alright. At least he could improve the Star Dharma idol, which was better than not improving it at all. From the looks of it, I won't be able to make a breakthrough even if I devour all of the spirit herbs in the area. Yi Tianyun continued devouring the spirit herbs while observing the situation. However, he was not dejected. Every little bit of improvement counted. Colossal Divine Beast, if the major Star Venerables here are all so powerful, it will be difficult to deal with them. It is imperative that I improve my cultivation. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. After he finished absorbing this batch of elixirs, he planned to head to Red Moon Star to deal with the Lu family. From Lu Zhixing's memory, he learned a lot of things, some of which even angered him. Naturally, he would target the Lu family first. Getting rid of Lu Zhixing wasn't the end of everything. They had come to the Heavenly Cloud ancestral land not because of their own decision, but because it was an order from the Liu family patriarch. When it came to finding out who was responsible, it meant that it would be a thorough investigation. It was not just a matter of getting rid of this batch. While he was devouring the spirit herbs, another group of people came to him. "Sirs, are you here to recruit us? Please go back. Our Lord said we won't join any force." The Star Lord in front of the guests politely refused the 3-star venerables when he saw them coming. Although Yi Tianyun was a major star venerable, they were not arrogant. No one wanted to be enemies with all the forces, so they would be polite if they could. If the other party forced them, they would not be polite either. "Get lost." The leader of the group extended his hand and slapped the Star Lord away. He was severely injured by the slap, and he was on the verge of death. This scene caught the attention of the guards. They quickly crushed their jade cards to summon the Star Venerables nearby to help. In the twinkling of an eye, 4 Star Venerables had come. The chiefs were quite proactive. Since they had joined this place, they were responsible for protecting it. "What do you want to do?" The Ghana tribe's chieftain and his companions were aggressive. They stared at the group of people coldly. They had just arrived, but they had already attacked them. It seemed they did not come with good intentions. "What do we want to do?" Mu Zhenghao, the leader of the group, said with a cold smile. "I should say, what do you want to do? We are from the Mu family. We are here to ask you about something." The Mu family? The Ghana tribe's chieftain and his companions did not know what was going on, nor did they know the distribution of the forces here. They did not know, but Shi Shuayun, who had rushed over, changed her expression when she heard them. She knew the Mu family. Mu Yangsu, who had come to make trouble for them last time, was from the Mu family. She did not expect them to come here so soon. The last battle had shocked the heavens and made ghosts and gods weep. Most people had witnessed it. They might not know that person was Mu Yangsu, but they could still find some clues if they asked around. If the Mu family's people went deep into the battle, they would probably find out many details. "I don't know what you want to ask?" Shi Shuayun greeted them with a cold face. "Get lost. We are looking for Heavenly Cloud Star Venerable, not you." Mu Zhenghao ignored Shi Shuayun and the Ghana tribe's chieftain and his companions. He treated them as if they were invisible. "Heavenly Cloud Star Venerable is not here. You can ask me anything. I'm in charge of this place." Shi Shuayun looked calm. She was neither happy nor angry. "He is not here?" Mu Zhenghao glanced at Shi Shuayun coldly. He said, "But I will ask you first. I heard a great battle took place here not long ago. I checked its energy, and it is similar to the energy of one of our elders. Tell me, what has happened here? Tell me honestly. If you don't, I will bury your whole force." Mu Zhenghao's tone was cold. He treated the Ghana tribe's chieftain and his companions as if they were invisible. Maybe they were used to being arrogant. Compared to the Liu family, the Mu family could be called an advanced family. They had many strong people. They did not take the Star Venerables seriously at all. "We saw it before. 2 strong people started fighting crazily. We didn't know what was going on, and our force suffered great losses." Shi Shuayun shook her head. "That's the details. They were fighting all the time, so we couldn't see them clearly. As they fought, they disappeared." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.